I had fought my way through the Jiangnan water transport world for years. No one there dared to provoke me, yet the fake heiress thought I was only a rustic girl from the countryside, soft-tempered, weak, and easy to bully. On my first day in the Marquis Manor, she could not wait to show me her power. She reached out as if to hold my hand. The moment her fingertips brushed my sleeve, her whole body went limp and she collapsed to the ground. Elder sister, I know you resent me for taking your place. It is all right. If pushing me once can help you calm your anger, I am willing. Splash. Before Lin Lianyao could finish speaking, my maidservant Jingqiu carried over a jar of cold water and poured it straight over her head. The cold water drenched her from head to toe. Her rouge and powder ran down her face, dripping from her chin onto her collar. In an instant, her hair was in disarray, her clothes were soaked, and the graceful bearing of a noble young lady was completely gone. Amid the startled cries of the servants rushing to cover her, Lin Lianyao was so furious that even her sobs caught in her throat. Madame Su, the Marchioness, hurried forward to shield Lin Lianyao's face. Then she turned to me, her voice half explanation and half accusation. Back then, when you were abducted, that had nothing to do with Yaoer. I nodded. I know. That is why I merely wet her clothes instead of slapping her mouth bloody. Madame Su's breath caught. Do you want to destroy her? You have only just returned to the capital, and already you want to ruin the daughter I raised for more than 10 years? My reflection was in her eyes, but it was buried beneath disappointment. Jingqiu frowned. She reached behind her waist and drew out the axe she carried. With a heavy thud, the axe flew out and chopped through an osmanthus tree as thick as a bowl. While everyone turned pale in terror, she said coldly, "If my young lady truly wanted to destroy her, one swing of my axe would be enough to send her head rolling." She looked at Lin Lianyao with contempt. "A little fall? No pain, no injury, not even a scratch. Who do you think you are fooling?" Lin Lianyao clutched Madame Su's sleeve. "Mother, do not blame elder sister. I was the one who lost my footing." Madame Su held her in her arms and pressed her lips together. "Mother will not let anyone bully you," Jingqiu laughed. "A wild chicken sticks on a few feathers and thinks it has become a phoenix? What a pity. My young lady has an old wound on her hand and just applied bamboo dew ointment. Everyone knows that anything touched by a hand smeared with that ointment turns purple when it meets alum water. You said my young lady pushed you. I have already splashed alum water on you. Is there even one purple mark on your clothes?" As soon as she finished speaking, every eye in the courtyard fell on Lin Lianyao's drenched, moon-white brocade skirt. Unfortunately for her, from beginning to end, aside from being wet and miserable, there was not a single purple mark. Jingqiu's eyes brightened. "Ah, I understand now. My young lady must have been born with the skill to strike people from a distance. She did not even touch a corner of your sleeve, yet she still made you tumble to the ground. Since my young lady is that powerful, she might as well go to war in place of a general. No need to open the city gate. She can stand far away and make the enemy general cry for his parents and flee with his head in his hands." She crossed her arms, looking proud and pleased. Someone in the courtyard could not hold back and covered her mouth to laugh softly. Those invisible slaps made Lin Lianyao tremble. Madame Su was humiliated as well. She lowered her voice and asked, "You prepared alum water in advance? This Marquis Manor is your home, not your enemy." Jingqiu sneered. "Family would not protect an outsider the moment something happened. Family would not scold my young lady until now without even asking how the wound on her hand came about." Madame Su stiffened. Her gaze had only just fallen on me before she hurriedly looked away. "Life in the countryside is harsh. Bumps and injuries are unavoidable. That is not Yaoer's fault," I spoke. "If it is not her fault, then it is the fault of the lady of the house for failing to manage the household strictly." I had returned to the capital 7 days earlier. Because the precious young lady of the manor had caught a chill and could not bear excitement, I had been made to stay in a separate residence for 7 days. During those 7 days, the Marquis, Madame Su, and the heir all stayed by Lin Lianyao's side to care for her. The servants saw that I was not favored, so naturally they did not take me seriously. Snakes crawled into my courtyard in the middle of the night. My bedroom caught fire without cause. Even the wheel of my carriage was tampered with and nearly threw me onto the road. None of these incidents were accidents, yet the Marquis Manor claimed to know nothing. Madame Su glanced at Lin Lianyao, who was hiding in her arms. Shock flickered deep in her eyes, but she lowered her lashes, and her voice softened until it was barely audible. "Yaoer only meant well. She was afraid of passing her illness to you. As for the servants obeying in front and disobeying behind, that is indeed their fault. I will punish them severely." Just as I had expected, in the end everything was pushed onto the servants. Madame is absolutely right. Jingqiu smiled and took out a brocade box. Those arrogant slaves truly deserve punishment. Then she bent forward, her clever eyes blinking. I have an interesting gift for you. Consider it a meeting gift from my young lady. Lin Lianyao's expression froze. With a click, the brocade box opened before her eyes. The moment she saw what was inside, her eyes widened. She cried out in panic and knocked the box away. The box fell to the ground with a crisp sound, and a severed finger rolled out of it. It is the wet nurse's finger! Someone cried. I recognize it. She cut off the wet nurse's finger. Everyone in the Lin family went pale. Madame Su froze, her voice trembling. How dare you make someone bleed? Do you still have the manners and dignity of a young lady? Without a mother to protect me, even staying alive is difficult. Protecting myself is my rule and dignity. I looked coldly at her panic and confusion. So that old woman who murdered, set fires, and used poison was my younger sister's wet nurse. She was an evil servant who relied on her master's favor to bully others. I cut off one of her fingers. She could not endure the pain, so she falsely accused my younger sister of ordering her to take my life. Madame Su went blank. She held Lin Lianyao in her arms, and the jade earrings on her ears swayed gently with her movement. I withdrew my gaze. Falsely accusing a young lady is a grave crime. To preserve my younger sister's innocent reputation and to avoid harming the sisterly affection between us, I cut out that servant's tongue. Consider it the small contribution of an elder sister. A flash of panic crossed Madame Su's eyes. My face remained cold as I said, word by word. I was afraid that the servants would obey to my face and frame me behind my back, so I deliberately prepare alum water in advance. Why has it become a miraculous medicine that proves my innocence today? I only want to ask you, madame. She framed me for no reason and deliberately tried to establish dominance in front of everyone. How should this be settled? Being questioned by me, Madame Su's face immediately turned pale. It is only an evil servant. Kill her and be done with it. The heir of the Marquis Manor, Lin Yunzhen, entered together with Marquis Lin Qingshan. Lin Yunzhen's gaze stopped on me. He pressed his lips together slightly and said calmly, Yaoer has not recovered. For a moment she could not stand steadily, so Jinyu was wronged. We are all one family. We must preserve face and reputation. You have only just returned to the manor. Do not argue over this matter. My own elder brother by blood used reputation and rules to force me to endure in order to protect a fake heiress. I smiled faintly. Fine. Lin Yunzhen breathed in relief, as expected of a daughter of the Lin family. You are truly magnanimous. But I raised my hand and pointed straight at the set of hair ornaments on Lin Yanyao's head. Then settle this matter. The smile on Lin Yunzhen's face froze. I asked. The steward said grandmother clearly instructed that those things were to be left to me as my dowry. Then why was grandmother's storeroom pried open before I had even returned to the manor? Madame Su hurriedly explained. You had not come back yet. Yaoer only borrowed them to keep up appearances. I asked again. Then now that I have returned, why are those things still on her body? Madame Su was speechless. Lin Yunzhen frowned slightly. Gold and silver are vulgar. Your temperament is cold and refined. Those things do not suit you. Besides, the person you are to marry into is the imperial family. You do not need a dowry, I asked in confusion. The imperial edict came 3 months ago. Why is the person entering the palace not Lin Lianyao, but me, the one who has only just returned to the capital? Madame Su hurried to speak. The wealth and pressure inside the palace are overwhelming. Yaoer is weak in health and delicate in temperament. She cannot bear it. You are her elder sister. Give way to her a little. For a moment, the courtyard fell silent. Jingqiu burst out laughing. Gold and silver are vulgar, yet the fake heiress wears Sichuan brocade and covers herself in gold and jade. Wealth and rank are overwhelming, yet my young lady is expected to enter the palace alone in her place, like walking into a tiger's den. You did not bring the true heiress home. You clearly brought home a scapegoat. I did not. Madame Su swayed. With a bang, the Marquise slammed the table. Since when is it your place, lowly maid, to speak? You know no rules. Drag her out. Who dares? I interrupted coldly. Her bond contract is in my hands. She is mine. When you cannot settle the matter within your own household, you punish a maid who dares to tell the truth. Is this how the Marquis has always acted as an official in court? My cold gaze and force of presence made the Marquis freeze where he stood. The whole courtyard lowered their heads and clenched their handkerchiefs. No one dared to make a sound. The Marquis's lips trembled slightly. It is only a hair crown. I gave it to Yaoer with my own mouth. It is an ordinary thing. What does it matter if it is destroyed? Fighting over it looks truly ugly. I nodded. Good. We will do as the Marquis says. As soon as I finished speaking, Jingqiu understood the order. She picked up the axe at once. With a swift motion, the blade came down. Lin Lianyao's expression changed in terror. The blade brushed over the top of her head and split the hair crown apart. Pearls and jade scattered across the ground with crisp clattering sounds. "Mother, save me!" Scared out of her wits by the axe that had nearly struck her head, Lin Lianyao went limp. Her hair fell loose, and she fainted in Madame Su's arms. Lin Zhenzhan's face darkened. "She is also your younger sister, smack." I slapped him across the face. His head turned to the side, and blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. Every word I did not want to hear was knocked back into his throat by that slap. Lin Yunzhan was enraged and was about to move when Jingqiu's axe came to rest on his shoulder. "An axe has no eyes," Jingqiu said. "Be careful it does not remove the foolish head on your neck." The blade pressed close enough to leave a thin mark. His angular face flushed red with humiliation. I looked at the red handprint on his face and raised my brows slightly. So being slapped in the face hurts after all. Telling me to give way, telling me to endure, telling me to suffer for the greater good, those words came so easily only because the slap never landed on your faces. Whoever advises me should first receive a few slaps themselves. Madame Su's panicked sobs, Lin Yunzhan's frozen face, and the anger the Marquess was struggling to suppress were all truly fascinating. I watched quietly, then took the axe from Jingqiu's hand. With a heavy swing, I struck the set of golden jade hair ornaments. The gold filigree hairpin flattened on the spot, the large eastern pearls rolled all over the ground. The entire set was crushed into a ruined mess. A pearl the size of a thumb rolled to the Marquis's feet. He had been frightened pale by the sight of me swinging the axe without hesitation. I looked straight into his trembling eyes and slowly said, "If I cannot use what belongs to me, then as the Marquis wishes, it will be destroyed on the spot. This hairpin set is only the beginning. Courtyards, storerooms, identity. Whatever has been stolen from me, I will let it rot in the mud." Lin Yunzhan opened his mouth in dissatisfaction. The axe in my hand immediately pointed at him. I almost forgot to say this. Even parents and this elder brother are the same. Since they no longer belong to me, each of them can be smashed and thrown away. His words stuck in his throat, his eyes filled with disbelief. You do not want us anymore?" Madame Su burst into tears. "We are your family." I looked at her. Family would not protect an outsider. Family would not force their own blood to be silent and endure. Madame Su's sobs caught. I turned away. The Marquis Manor already had Lin Lianyao. As for me, my name was Pei Lingwei. My name had been given to me by my foster mother, Pei Chu. Pei Chu controlled the water transport docks throughout Jiangnan. With one blood-stained abacus, she calculated wages, profits, and power, and her methods were ruthless. Corrupt officials who wanted a share of the waterway profits were stripped and left to die in brothels. Aristocratic clans who seized land, blocked waterways, and insulted her for being a woman had their tongues cut and were displayed before the public. Salt merchants who colluded with outside enemies and secretly hoarded illegal salt had their cargo boats sunk into the canal. Snatching food from a tiger's mouth, she swallowed half of Jiangnan by relying on a single abacus. She often said that money and power were the best nourishment for women, while men were nothing but stepping stones. Anyone who dared touch her interests deserved death. I watched her move through killing fields and power struggles, and I memorized everything bit by bit. 3 months earlier, I used the method she had taught me and killed her with my own hands in the bath. She had already priced me at 10,000 taels and intended to send me to the Yangzhou authorities in exchange for the deed to 3 transport ships. I refused. She refused as well. If that was the case, only one of us could live. The death-sworn fighters under her command had all been abducted as children. Eldest sister worked as an insider and poisoned corrupt officials, only to die and be thrown into the canal. Second brother seized salt boats for her, was struck by arrows, abandoned on the dock, and died under a hail of arrows. Third brother and fourth brother went into the mountains as bandits and removed one obstacle after another for her. Fifth sister became a plaything of a capital official and died in childbirth. Sixth sister fell ill and was burned alive by Pei Chu herself. Seventh sister talked too much and had her tongue cut, becoming a mute maidservant from then on. I was better at calculation than anyone else. In Pei Chu's eyes, I was the one most like her. Hidden beneath all her lessons and principles was a merciless truth: never yield even half a step. Yet she still wanted to offer me to a powerful noble for amusement. I planned in secret for a long time. Third brother guarded the door. Fourth brother controlled the people under her. Seventh sister put sleeping medicine in the bathwater. When I brought in a bowl of bird's nest soup, I picked up the barbed riding whip Pei Chu had used to torment me and tightened it around her neck. Her hairpin tore both my hands, but I did not let go, because that was the only path of survival for us siblings. After Pei Chu died, her body was thrown into the canal, and we took over everything she had left behind. On the surface, seventh sister and I ran Hongfu Inn together. In the dark, we took control of the entire Jiangnan waterway network and became a hard thorn no one dared to touch. I deliberately released news that the Marquis Manor's true heiress had been lost. I had not expected the fake heiress, Lin Lianyao, to think I was low-born, weak, and easy to bully. Just as the imperial draft edict was issued, she coaxed the Marquis Manor into bringing me back to the capital. She wanted me to enter the palace in her place and serve an emperor nearly 40 years old. Power was a great tonic, and imperial power was the highest form of power. I wanted to enter the palace. On the road back to the capital, an evil servant tried to humiliate me. Before his whip could fall, I ended him with one stroke. When news reached the capital, Lin Lianyao became wary. By the time I arrived, she pretended to be ill and borrowed a fortune-teller's words to say I clashed with her. My parents and elder brother all favored her and arranged for me to live in a remote separate residence. Then she sent her wet nurse to kill me and remove the future threat. Poisonous snakes, fire, the carriage wheel, each debt had been created by them. From the moment the beads of my abacus began to move, only one of us was destined to remain. I grasped the Marquis's weakness, forced him to submit a memorial requesting retirement, and forced him to bring me back into the Marquis Manor. At the same time, I needed a blade that could speak. In Tongluo Alley, I found an unyielding girl. The webbing of her hand was covered in calluses, and her fingers still had cracks left by bowstrings. With one clean swing of an axe, she cut down a vicious dog. Her straw shoes were worn through, revealing the hardship and poverty of her journey to the capital. She asked only for 5 taels of silver to buy an axe and earn a living. I told her I was the true heiress of the Marquis Manor, but I was not favored. Before long, I would enter the palace in place of the fake heiress. Behind your compassionate face hides a diamond-hard blade. You cut off the hand of the robber who covered my mouth. I saw it clearly, and I am very satisfied. Following me will be extremely dangerous, but as long as I have a bite to eat, I will not let you starve. I will give you the 5 taels of silver and the axe you need. Whether you follow me is your choice. She hesitated for only an instant, then tucked my axe behind her waist. Wherever the blade points, I will follow my young lady's command. I was very satisfied. I burned her bond contract, travel pass, and identity documents. From now on, your name is Pei Jingqiu. She followed me to kill evil servants, establish authority, and step into the Marquis Manor with me. The only pity was that she was still too young, only 11, and not calm enough. The moment the fake heiress opened her mouth to frame me, Jingqiu could not hold back and splashed alum water on her, shattering the act. Afterward, Jingqiu felt sorry for me. How can there be a mother who does not love her own child? She did not understand. Soon, Lin Yunzhan came to me. Yaoer will marry into the duke's household before long. Now that her identity is unstable, if she even loses her dowry, she will only be looked down upon more in the future. Jinyu, it is not that I am deliberately protecting her. Father is already being watched by His Majesty, and the Marquis Manor needs this marriage to stabilize its position. Be sensible. Do not make things difficult for everyone. Jingqiu was so angry that her face turned red. The Marquis Manor has fallen so low that it must sacrifice women to keep its status? The Marquis and the heir might as well castrate themselves and become eunuchs, useless to the bone. Lin Yunzhan choked, his face flushed, yet he did not dare lay a hand on Jingqiu. Madame Su cautiously took my hand. Jinyu, does your hand still hurt? Jingqiu answered before I could. Not as much as being stabbed in the back by one's own family. Madame Su's eyes reddened again. Yaoer is also a child I held and raised from infancy. I cannot abandon her simply because I have you. Mother promises you that I will treat you fairly. Let her use the dowry for now, all right? She said she would treat me fairly, but what she did was steal my things in order to favor Lin Yanyao. Madame Su's jade earrings swayed gently. They were exactly the same style as the pair Lin Yanyao was wearing. The sight stabbed my eyes. I lowered my gaze and pulled my hand away. If the Marquis Manor wants to support her and preserve her face, then use Madame's dowry, the heir's betrothal gifts, and the Marquis's family property. There is no reason for you to raise up someone who stabbed me in the back while using my money to preserve your face. You may give your own things to whomever you like, but what grandmother left to me, whoever dares touch it dies. Jinyu, with a heavy crash, Jingqiu slammed her axe onto the tea table. My young lady is heartbroken and exhausted today. She needs rest and treatment for her wounds. If you have nothing pleasant to say, all of you get out. If you do not love her, why bring her back at all? Either way it is death. She might as well have died outside, where it would have been easier. Your noble family's soft knives are truly clever. Madame Su's eyes turned red and her body swayed. She clutched her handkerchief and staggered out. Jingchu's face darkened. They are clearly biased. They see that my young lady's grandmother died early, so they bully you. It is fine, I said. In this world, no one has ever taken benefits from my hands. What if they insist on not returning them? Then I will peel a layer from them before I enter the palace in Lin Lianyao's place. The Marquis Manor held a grand recognition banquet. All the reputable families in the capital were invited. Even the genealogy placed in the ancestral hall recorded my name, Lin Jinyu, the legitimate eldest daughter of the Marquis Manor, before Lin Lianyao's. The madams and young ladies of the capital did not know the inside story. They all assumed the Marquis Manor valued the true Heiress it had just recovered, so each of them secretly tried to curry favor or probe for information. Then Lin Lianyao held the repaired hair crown and walked gently before me. She deliberately spoke in a choked voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Elder sister, I should not have borrowed your hair ornaments. It was deserved even if I was beaten. Today they have been repaired as good as new, so I specially brought them to return them to you. As soon as she finished, the whole courtyard went silent. Then a sneer rang out. A person from the countryside truly has no knowledge. Fighting and snatching, even striking others. What an ugly sight. The speaker was Shen Yinghan, the legitimate eldest son of the duke's household, and Lin Lianyao's childhood sweetheart. The moment she saw him, Lin Lianyao blushed and said softly, Elder sister was lost in the countryside since childhood and never learned rules. I have made the young duke laugh. The faces of the nobles in the courtyard shifted. The marquis still raised his cup and drank, letting Lin Lianyao belittle me, and letting Shen Yinghan make things difficult for me with contempt, as if he had not heard a thing. Madame Su's lips trembled slightly, but in the end she avoided my gaze and said nothing. Lin Yunjian looked at me with warning in his eyes, wanting me to put the greater good first. It seemed the lesson I had taught them behind closed doors the other day had been too light. They had forced me to tear apart the Marquis Manor's face with my own hands in front of everyone. Jingchu's eyes reddened with anger, but I reached out and held down her hand, which was eager to act. I stepped forward. Just as Lin Lianyao looked at me with a mocking smile, I slapped her hard across the face. Blood appeared at the corner of her mouth. Since younger sister said being beaten was deserved, I will reward you with a few more slaps. Smack. Another crisp slap landed. Shen Yinghan shouted, Yaoer has a noble character and has always looked lightly on wealth. You dared to strike her over one set of hair ornaments. As expected, you are a low-born country maid. Marquis, are you just going to watch? I smiled faintly. The wealth she looks down on may be something even the young duke cannot afford to compensate. As soon as I raised my hand, Jingchu placed a ledger in it. Since younger sister wants to return things, then in front of everyone, return everything that originally belonged to me. Lin Lianyao's expression changed at once. Even her crying voice became sharper. Elder sister, what are you saying? I am saying, return everything you stole from me. Shen Yinghan immediately stepped in front of her protectively. Yaoer is not the kind of person who chases vanity. Do not stand here and slander her. I opened the ledger. Every line and every character in this book records the dowry grandmother left to me. Borrowing to use is one thing. Prying open the lock of the storeroom and taking things without permission is called stealing. The courtyard became so quiet that only the wind through the treetops could be heard. Madame Su moved slightly as if to speak. I glanced at her coldly. Madam, do not tell me that her theft happened with your secret permission. Madame Su was forced back into the grand chair by my gaze. Lin Lianyao grew anxious. You did. I pointed at the black characters on the page. Pearl Jade Pavilion was originally repaired for me, yet now younger sister lives there. 2 silk shops on the main street, 1,000 mu of good fields outside the city, and 2 horse farms are now all under younger sister's name. The red wedding dress, the 8 treasure head ornament set, and even the carved bridal bed bestowed by imperial favor are all placed in younger sister's rooms. Jewelry, fine horses, livestock, several stewards and maidservants all serve under younger sister now. With every sentence I read, Lin Lianyao's face became paler. The way people looked at her also grew more meaningful. In the end, she could hardly stand. The expressions of the guests shifted from watching excitement to quiet discussion and contempt. Money and power are great nourishment. What belongs to me cannot fall into another's hand, not even 1 coin. I looked at the flustered Shen Yinghan and continued. The wealth and rank she says she does not want also include items bestowed by the late emperor. A pure red gold phoenix coronet set with eastern pearls, a complete kingfisher feather head ornament set inlaid with rubies, a white mutton fat jade banquet set, 12 black jade pendants inlaid with gold, 3 chests of whole South Sea agarwood, a Guanyin statue carved from century-old sandalwood, cloud brocade, moon gold woven brocade, 100 bolts of each, 2 sets of sable and fox fur garments in various colors, and a jade chin. Madame Su sternly tried to stop me. I looked at her. Aren't all of those things recorded in younger sister's storeroom? The late emperor bestowed them on grandmother years ago. There should still be records in the palace. If Madame thinks I have missed anything, please point it out and I will add it. Madame Su's face looked extremely ugly. This is a family matter. We will discuss it privately after returning. Jingqiu laughed and deliberately raised her voice. When she brought the damaged hair ornaments to smear my young lady's reputation and face, the entire marquis manor was mute. Now my young lady is only following her words and settling the debt clearly. How did it suddenly become a family matter? What you want to preserve is not my young lady's grievance, but the marquis manor's face. I laughed as well. The dowry items bestowed by the late emperor to Princess Mincheng were pried from storage and used by an adopted daughter. Madame calls this a family matter. Does that not mean the whole marquis manor is shielding a thief who disrespects the late emperor? Or do you think the late emperor has passed, so it no longer matters? Or do you think that because grandmother threw herself before the Golden Hall to preserve the Marquis Manor's reputation, no one will speak for her now? Or perhaps, none of you ever hoped I would live until my wedding day. Madame Su clenched her sleeve. Her red lips moved for a long time, but she could not say a word. Lin Yunzan lowered his voice to advise me. Jinyu, if you keep making this bigger, it will benefit no one. At worst I will compensate you for whatever you want. I laughed. Younger sister is famous in the capital for being lofty and pure. How could I bear to let her reputation suffer? Since she said gold, silver and jade are vulgar, I naturally cannot let such vulgar things stain her. Therefore all my gold and silver must be moved back to their original place without one item missing. Since she also said wealth and rank are exhausting, how could I, as her elder sister, bear to let her suffer? So my courtyard, my identity, my imperial rewards, every single thing must be returned to me. Lin Lianyao burst into tears. Elder sister, why must you press me so hard and deliberately ruin me at the banquet? You were the one who said you wanted to return them. If you are returning them, you cannot merely put on an act. Enough! The Marquis looked at me, his gaze full of warning. I curled my lips. When the Marquis says enough, does he mean it was enough when younger sister used one hairpin set to smear my reputation before everyone? Or enough when she and the young duke echoed each other to mock my origins? Or enough when she returns my dowry and apologizes? Or must I swallow this anger and offer all the late emperor's rewards to her with both hands before it is enough? My voice gradually chilled. Please explain clearly, Marquise. She occupied the identity of the legitimate daughter, enjoyed the wealth and honor of the Marquis Manor, stole the good marriage that originally belonged to me, and benefited from everything. When the imperial draft arrived, she curled up like a turtle, unwilling to shoulder the responsibility of a young lady of the Marquis Manor, and unwilling to be locked in the deep palace for life, so she pretended to be kind and pushed me out in her place. While taking my property, she smeared my name before everyone. Where I come from, a person like that is called an ungrateful wolf, not a beloved daughter. The Marquise was left speechless. Madame Su sobbed softly. She had no other choice, someone had to enter the palace. Either you or her. The palm and the back of the hand are both flesh. How do you expect mother to choose? Her voice was not loud, but it was enough for everyone present to hear each word clearly. From then on, the fact that the Marquis Manor had brought me back to the capital to enter the palace in place of the fake heiress could no longer be denied. The Marquis lost all face. His hand clenched the armrest of his chair. Yaoer apologized to your elder sister, Lin Lianyao staggered. Father, what are you saying? The Marquis' face turned cold. Confine yourself and reflect or apologize. Choose for yourself. Madame Su bit her lip and avoided Lin Lianyao's pleading gaze. Lin Yunzhan's throat moved, but in the end he lowered his eyes. Tears streamed down Lin Lianyao's face. Elder sister, today was my fault. Please be magnanimous and do not argue with a lesser person. I shook my head. Apologies are useless. Return my things. I already said my things are not to be touched. I struggled all the way into the capital and endured these people again and again until I felt sick. I did not do that just to receive a painless apology. The tears froze on her face. The Marquis closed his eyes deeply. Move all of the eldest young lady's dowry back to its storeroom. Only then did I hand the ledger to Jingqiu. In this Marquis manner, only you truly protect me. Giving this ledger to anyone else would be sending a sheep into a tiger's mouth. I only feel at ease giving it to you. Go at once and retrieve the foundation we need to stand firm in the capital. Cross off every item you recover. Mark whatever is missing. With accounts in hand, we need not fear the authorities favoring anyone, nor fear anyone denying the debt. If evil servants dare stop you, use your axe to teach them how to behave. Lin Yunjan was shocked. Why must you be so heartless? Father has already agreed. Before he finished, I casually picked up a teacup and threw it at his forehead. Blood immediately ran down. Under my cold gaze, I shoved him hard. He fell straight into the fish pond behind him, soaked from head to toe and wretched beyond words. Amid the low gasps across the courtyard, I looked down at him and said slowly, "If you want to repay her debt in her place, I will grant your wish. Theft is a serious crime, punishable by branding and exile. I will use the blood on your head to repay that debt for her. Do not think too highly of yourself. Did you truly believe you were something impressive? Is the pond water cold enough to sober you up?" Lin Yunjan struggled ashore, his fine robe soaked through. The face of the noble young master had been torn apart by me before everyone, so he knew shame after all. His reddened eyes looked at me. "You were not like this before. You always tugged at my sleeve. You listened to everything I said." I looked at him. "But between us are 13 years during which you raised her. Do you know how I lived through those 13 years? I understand that your heart is biased, but I refuse to accept that every time someone must suffer, it is always me." Lin Yunjan froze. A crack seemed to appear in those bloodshot eyes. Lin Lianyao hurried over and pretended to stand before him protectively. Crying, she said to me, "If elder sister is dissatisfied, aim at me. Elder brother is upright and values face most. Why use him to vent your anger?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. She lifted her neck, looking weak yet stubborn, as though ready to sacrifice herself. "If you want to act, then act to the end." The corners of my lips curved. "Very well, I will grant your wish." The instant she raised her head and looked at me in shock, I kicked her straight into the pond. She could not swim. Her hair ornaments came loose, her clothes were soaked, and she flailed while crying for help. Miserable to the extreme. Madame Su rushed forward, wailing. Maidservants and household servants became a chaotic mess. The Marquis Manor's face and so-called fairness were completely torn apart before the nobles. I looked up at the Marquise. "Will the recognition banquet continue? If not, I will invite the madams and young ladies to tour grandmother's dowry storeroom and broaden their horizons." The Marquis' hand tightened around the armrest, veins bulging. His anger churned, but at last he said, "Enough trouble. The recognition banquet continues." When Lin Lianyao and Lin Yunjan were dragged away, one looked like a wilted eggplant after frost and the other covered her face while sobbing. Both looked utterly pathetic. As soon as the guests dispersed, the Marquis, having lost all face, began to settle accounts. He ordered me to kneel in the ancestral hall. "When you understand that one person's glory is shared by all and one person's disgrace shames all, then you may stand." Jingqiu wanted to rush forward, but I stopped her. "Fine, I will go." The cold wind made the oil lamps flicker. The instant I turned around, my expression chilled. There were many ancestral tablets in the ancestral hall, but the only one I held in my arms was grandmother's. Then I took out a fire starter, blew it lightly, and threw the flame onto the curtain. Fire burst up. The Marquis rushed in and cracks finally appeared on his always composed face. "Wicked daughter, you dare burn the ancestral hall? Get out here. Today, if I do not peel off a layer of your skin." His words stopped abruptly because the torch in my hand was pointed at his father's memorial tablet. His voice instantly softened with panic. "Do not. That is your grandfather. You cannot do that. If a child is not taught, the father bears the fault. He raised a son like you, one who cannot distinguish right from wrong and understands no reason. Then he should also pay the price." This time, the Marquis was truly afraid. "We can discuss anything slowly. I will not punish you anymore." "Still not enough." He froze. "What do you want?" My lips curved. "I want everyone coveting my storeroom to stay far away. I have never taken those useless siblings seriously. But you, Marquis, face the spirit tablet of the father you respect most, and swear that from now on, no matter what I do in this manner, you will not touch a single hair on my head." The Marquis hesitated. I pressed the torch lower, and fire licked the edge of the tablet. He panicked at once. "Fine, I agree. Swear." The old Marco was upright all his life. "If you dare deceive the dead, he will not spare you in the underworld." The Marquis' throat moved. "I swear. The relics my mother left to Jinyu are all Jinyu's. No matter what she does in the Marquis Manor, as long as she does not take another person's life, I will never lay a finger on her." "Good." I threw the torch away. Just as the Marquis breathed in relief, I stepped out the door. That night, all the crooked servants guarding my storeroom withdrew. Lin Lianyao had originally been waiting to recover all the property and silver as her own dowry after the recognition banquet. When she heard the news, she became so angry that she fell ill again. The Marquise also warned her that she was not allowed to make trouble for me anymore. Lin Lianyao smashed the tea table in her room and cursed me as a foolish country bumpkin, asking what right I had to seize everything from her and threaten to ride over her head. Unable to accept it, she shifted her target to Jiangnan. Half a month later, I went to the outskirts of the capital to pay respects to grandmother. When I came down the mountain and returned toward the manor, I was just about to board my carriage when an arrow brushed past my shoulder and embedded itself in the carriage door. Jiangnan slowly walked down from a pavilion, with several noble young men behind him. How was my greeting gift? You do not even know to say thank you. You have been back in the capital for more than a month and still have not learned rules. Is it because you are stupid? The noble young men behind him lowered their heads and suppressed laughter. No one dared speak. He wanted to make trouble for me to vent anger for Lin Lianyao. He was truly asking for humiliation. I sneered and walked toward him step by step. Young Duke, you studied for 15 years but could not even pass the imperial examinations. Is it because you are useless? Jianghan's smile immediately fell. I only made a joke and you could not endure it? I shook my head, casually took the bow and 2 unshot arrows from his hand, then stepped back and drew the bow myself. Of course not. The young duke has a noble birth. Even if he is a useless wastrel, mocking him costs nothing, and it might even help someone curry favor with the duke's household. The people behind you told me those exact words. I know everything. A group of men had stood by to watch a woman be bullied as if it were entertainment. How shameful. Since that was the case, I dragged all of them into the water. Sure enough, after being stabbed in the back by friends, Jiangnan immediately went mad. His gaze swept over the noble young men behind him and each shook his head frantically. It was not me. Nor me. Even less me. Jiangnan clenched his fists and turned back to me. You deliberately sowed discord between us, did you not? Once the seed of suspicion had been planted, sooner or later it would grow into a great tree. Think whatever you like. In any case, I have delivered the message. The arrow in my hand pointed straight at his head. Now it is my turn to return the gift. Jianghan's face turned pale. You dare. Before he finished, I released the string. The first arrow grazed past him and struck the old locust tree behind him. Horror filled his eyes. I'm the only male heir of the duke's household. My eldest sister is Consort Shen, His Majesty's most favored consort. The crown prince is my cousin. If you do not know the height of heaven and depth of earth and dare injure me, just wait for the Marquis manor to be executed to the 9th degree. The corners of my lips curved. Without hesitation, I drew another arrow. Young Duke must be joking. I am only learning your rules and returning a great gift. Is it not just shooting an arrow? Like this? The second arrow tore through the air, knocked the hair crown from his head, and pinned it to the pillar of the pavilion. Jianghan's hair fell loose at once, and his face went bloodless. You truly have nerve. Before he finished, his eyes widened. Jingqiu pulled the arrow from the carriage door, handed it to me, and set it on the bowstring. Heroes have always become angry for beauties. Today I will help the young duke fulfill his heroic dream. How about that? This time, my arrow aimed straight between his brows. His eyes opened wide and his throat moved twice. What do you want? I answered calmly. From now on, when you see me, remember to make way. He hesitated. The arrow shot out and embedded itself in his left arm. He cried out in pain. Do you want to die? You dare injure me? Are you not afraid I will skin you? Jingqiu shrugged and said coolly, Go ahead and speak. Let everyone see how the young duke gathered a gang, brought a crowd, drew a bow, and tried to shoot my weak young lady, then was beaten by my young lady with 3 arrows until his hair came loose and he cried for mercy. Speak. Let the whole capital know how the young duke of the duke's household relied on Consort Shen and the East Palace to brazenly shoot and kill a noble young lady of the capital. Jiangnan choked until he could hardly breathe. He gritted his teeth and flung his sleeve. If anyone dares reveal even half a word of today's matter, do not blame me for turning hostile. He glared fiercely at me, held his injured arm and hurried away. Jingqiu winked at me lightly. In the pavilion, a maidservant was secretly peeking out. It was the maidservant who served beside Lin Lianyao, so she had led these people here on purpose to humiliate me. If the legitimate daughter of the Marquis manor returned with her clothes disordered and her dignity ruined, then forget entering the palace as a consort. Even marrying into an aristocratic clan would become difficult. I raised the bow. 1 arrow pierced the maidservant's throat. Half an hour later, several madams and young ladies close to Madame Su were already waiting at the gate of the Marquis manor. There was no need to think. This was Lin Lianyao's idea. She wanted everyone to see me return with messy hair and a frightened soul. Then the events outside the city could be left for the world to guess. She anxiously called out, "Elder sister, these madams are mother's close friends. Since you have returned to the manor, why have you not gotten down to greet them?" There was no answer from inside the carriage, which made her believe her guess even more. Unable to wait, she hurriedly lifted the curtain. "Elder sister, do not be embarrassed. With mother and me here, we will definitely." The moment the curtain lifted, what entered her eyes was the body of her maidservant sitting upright inside the carriage, eyes still open. Startled and terrified, she fell from the carriage, trembling all over. I stepped down from the carriage behind it and looked down at her pale, horrified face. I raised my brows slightly. Surprised? Remember what she looked like. This is the end of someone who failed to harm another because of your stupidity. Lin Lianyao did not dare pursue it because she was too foolish and had left holes everywhere. A maidservant could not leave the manor without orders, much less go with outside men to block my way. She did not dare meet my eyes. I bent down, patted her face lightly, and said softly, "If you dare be this stupid again, the one who dies will be you." She did not believe me. But the very next day, the Empress Dowager's reward for me was delivered to the Marquis Manor. It was a sharp ceremonial sword said to cut iron like mud. In front of the entire manor, the palace attendant smiled and said, "Her Majesty the Empress Dowager sends word." The eldest young lady used only 3 arrows to suppress the young duke's arrogance, preserving the duke's household's face, while teaching the young duke a lesson. Brave and resourceful, she truly has the bearing of Princess Minsheng in her youth. She is worthy of being the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor. Lin Lianyao's fingers suddenly tightened around her handkerchief. The palace attendant acted as if he had not seen it and turned to instruct me. "After you enter the palace, eldest young lady must often visit Her Majesty at Sinning Palace. Her Majesty has always been waiting for you." The Marquis suddenly raised his head, his face full of surprise and delight. In the manor study, he said to me, "Do not be afraid. Your father will arrange everything in the palace for you. You are the only legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor. No one can surpass you." At last he looked somewhat like a father. Once during all those years of being beaten, those words had been what I held most tightly in my heart. Unfortunately, his "do not be afraid" came too late. If it had been said on the day I first returned to the manor, when I demanded justice, if it had been said at the recognition banquet, when I was humiliated, if it had been said before the Empress Dowager's reward arrived, perhaps I would have been very happy. But now he wanted to climb higher by relying on my glory. Too late. I lifted my head and looked at him. "What does the Marquis plan to do?" His expression stiffened. "The Duke's household cannot have a principal wife of unclear origin." I smiled faintly. "So the Marquis wants me to perform a show of deep sisterly affection with her." With a bang, the study door was pushed open. Madame Su stepped in. "Jinyu, you only need to acknowledge Yaoer's identity as a legitimate daughter. As long as the Empress Dowager does not make things difficult for her, she will still be a noble young lady of the capital, and still the daughter-in-law the Duke's household wants." Lin Yunjin also advised, "That is also the Duke's household's intention. Consort Shen has been His Majesty's exclusive favorite for many years. If you raise your hand and let this pass lightly, you will gain an ally and support in the future. There are 100 benefits and no harm." Lin Lianyao bit her lip and clenched her handkerchief, looking as though she had suffered every grievance. "Elder sister, I have never wanted to fight you for anything. Please do not make things difficult for me." My gaze stopped on the shining jade earrings by her ears. I stepped forward. As she retreated in panic, I suddenly raised my hand and tore off the earrings. She covered her torn earlobes and screamed. I shook the earrings in my hand and smiled coldly. "This is what making things difficult looks like. If you dare covet what belongs to me even once, I will teach you a lesson once." "Jinyu." Before Madame Su could finish, I threw a pot of hot tea at the floor before her feet with a crash. "If you dare favor her again next time, do not blame me if I strike even you, madam." The study immediately sank into silence. Madame Su burst into tears. "Must you take everything from Yaoer?" I raised the earrings in my hand. "Were those things originally hers?" "My things were occupied by her for more than 10 years. How did they become hers?" "These earrings were my birthday gift to you, madam. She has worn them for 13 years. Why is she still unwilling to return them?" Madame Su's tears froze on her face. The Marquis rubbed his brow. "The great families of the capital support one another. No matter how capable a person is, she cannot stir up storms alone." I laughed. "A carp leaps the dragon gate alone. Do not use that to threaten me. I only fear that when the whole Marquis Manor dies out, I alone will remain to enjoy all the wealth and glory." After saying this, I turned and walked out. Madame Su called after me choking. Jinyu, are you still blaming mother? I stopped. Madame must be joking. I have no parents. Madame Su collapsed into the grand chair, her face pale and bloodless. The marriage between the Duke's household and the Marquis manor was temporarily set aside. What they needed was face, not affection. Obviously, Lin Lianyao's identity as a fake heiress no longer carried enough face. Meanwhile, the whole capital already knew that I had earned the Empress Dowager's regard before even entering the palace. On the Marquis's birthday, many people came from the capital to offer congratulations. They withdrew the contempt and scorn they had shown a month earlier. One after another, they pretended to praise me for being decisive and very much like grandmother in her youth. Lin Lianyao, who had once always been surrounded by noble young ladies, was now left behind the crowd. She hated me for stealing the identity, status, and favor she believed belonged to her, and her eyes reddened with fury. Before long, a bowl of tea accidentally splashed over my dress. I understood at once. When I returned to my courtyard to change, the kitchen sent over a bowl of bird's nest soup. The maidservant who brought it was an unfamiliar face. Her hands trembled slightly, and when she left, she nearly tripped. Jingqiu frowned so hard it was as if she could crush a fly between her brows. Does she need to use the privy, or did she put medicine in the bird's nest? I looked at her silently. She wanted to ruin my chastity. Jing hailed deeply. The courtyard is tightly guarded. Outside men cannot enter, so it must be someone who can freely enter the inner courtyard of the Marquis manor. Shen Yinghan. I nodded. She can drag the Duke's household into the water while pushing everything onto me and destroy me in passing. A fine calculation. Jingqiu smiled, and the smile was cold to the bone. Then let us play with her. She acted extremely decisively. The moment Lin Yanyao's maid went to invite Shen Yinghan to spring welcoming pavilion, Jingqiu knocked Lin Yanyao unconscious where she sat in a pavilion waiting to watch the show. She dragged Lin Yanyao onto the heated bed, then hid behind the door. As soon as Shen Yinghan entered the room, Jingqiu struck him down as well. The two unconscious conspirators were arranged on the bed, with their outer garments loosened, embracing each other. Lin Yanyao's maid led a group of madams into the room. What entered their eyes was Lin Yanyao and Shen Yinghan, clothes in disorder, lying together. Madame Su swayed. Yao the maid who had charged in to catch adultery also froze. Young lady, why is it you? Lin Yanyao opened her eyes with difficulty. Only then did she realize that the clothes at her chest were disordered, and the person lying beside her was Shen Yinghan. He should have been in my bed, yet now her own reputation had been ruined. Her dream of marrying into the Duke's household as the principal wife shattered before everyone's eyes. She went mad. It was not me. It should not be me. Someone harmed me. I did not. The senior maid beside Madame Su reacted quickly and immediately invited all the madams and young ladies out of the courtyard. Shen Yinghan woke in a daze. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Lin Lianyao crying and pointing at me as I walked slowly in. It was her. She deliberately ruined me. The person who should have been here was not me. How could I privately meet an outside man and ruin my own future? She is despicable. She framed me. Her tears fell like rain, and Madame Su's heart was thrown into chaos. Jinyu, Madame Su asked, was it truly you who ruined your younger sister's reputation? I smiled coldly. I framed her? Have you questioned the maid and the young duke? Lin Lianyao's face turned deathly pale. Afraid her scheme would be exposed, she gritted her teeth, got up, and rushed toward a pillar. I have no face left to meet anyone. Let me die. Before she could reach it, a maidservant caught her tightly around the waist. My young lady has such a bitter life, the maidservant cried. After more than 10 years of devotion, she still cannot compare to another person's bloodline. Madame Su held Lin Yanyao tightly and could only sob. The Marquise and Lin Yunzan hurried over. One pointed at my face and shouted, Jinyu, you already have everything. Why must you drive her to the end? The other looked full of disappointment. Hurting her is also destroying the entire Marquis manor. Lin Lianyao cried as if her heart were breaking. Father, elder brother, Yao has no face to live anymore. I looked at her and my eyes suddenly brightened. So younger sister truly wants to die? As soon as I spoke, Jingqiu tore down a curtain sash, looped it around Lin Lianyao's neck, threw it over the beam, and pulled hard. In the blink of an eye, Lin Lianyao was suspended in the air. While everyone's face changed in terror, I pulled out the axe. With one strike I split the tea table. Who wants to see her head separate from her neck? Step forward and try. Several people froze at once. She is your younger sister, the daughter I raised for more than 10 years, Madame Su cried. I looked at her. She wants to die. I am granting her wish. Am I not doing a good deed? The sash tightened around Lin Lianyao's neck, and her face flushed as her feet struggled. Everyone in the Marquis manor panicked like ants on a hot pan. Let her down at once. I shook my head. No. First I must ask clearly. I turned to the stunned Shen Yinghan. Young Duke, who led you into the inner courtyard? The axe blade in my hand flashed coldly as it slowly passed before his eyes. The arrow wound on his arm seemed to ache again. He looked at Lin Lian Yao, then lowered his eyes in disappointment. It was Yao Er's maid. She said her young lady had invited me here and wanted to ruin that country girl to help me vent my anger. I did not expect it to become ruining her instead. Before he finished, the axe in my hand swept past Lin Lian Yao's maid. One of her ears was cut. Is that true? The maid clutched her wound and cried out, pain forcing her to her knees. I will speak. I will speak. It was the young lady who ordered me. The young lady said that as long as the young duke got into bed with the eldest young lady, the duke's household's face and the Empress Dowager's regard for the eldest young lady would both be destroyed. As long as everyone was dragged into the mud, no one would laugh at the young lady's origins anymore. Eldest young lady, spare me. I only followed orders. The room became so quiet that only breathing remained. By then, Lin Lian Yao was nearly out of strength. Madame Su could no longer endure it. With a thud, she knelt before me. She only did it because she was too afraid. Spare her. From now on, I will watch her. I will not let her make trouble for you again. Mother kneels and begs you. Lin Yunzan hurried to support her. Mother, Jinyu cannot bear such a great bow. Madame Su shook her head, but I have no other way. Yao Er must live. As soon as those words fell, the whole room sank into silence. See? They all knew. Whenever something happened, I was the one forced to yield, because forcing me cost them the least. I let out a soft breath and took a severance letter from my sleeve. Already signed. Madame Su staggered. Do you still want to dig out my heart? I smiled. If Madame keeps hesitating, Madame's daughter will not keep her life. Her tears froze at the corners of her eyes. At last, trembling, she took the severance letter and signed her name. I looked up at the Marquis and Lin Yunzhan. It is the Marquis and the heir's turn. Both men turned ashen and stood motionless. Jingqiu tightened her grip. Lin Lian Yao hung in the air and even her struggling was gradually weakening. Lin Yunzhan hurriedly said, Save Yao Er first. We can make up for everything else later. The Marquis's lips trembled. In the end, he stamped the severance letter. With a thud, Lin Lian Yao was released and fell heavily to the floor. I put the severance letter away. I had never enjoyed a single benefit from the Marquis manor, so they should not expect to rely on me even half a point. That was called fairness. It was also called owing each other nothing from now on. When the whole Lin family cried and rushed to hold Lin Lian Yao, calling Yao Er over and over, Shen Yinghan, who had been watching coldly, slowly stood. I will help conceal what happened today. We will say I drank too much and entered the wrong room. Before long, I will have my mother come to the manor to propose marriage. But Yao Er, the affection between us for more than 10 years ends today. After speaking, he turned and left. Madame Su held Lin Lian Yao tightly, crying and laughing. Yao Er truly has fortune within misfortune. In the end, she can still marry into the duke's household as she wished. Mother knew it. Yao Er is a blessed child. I stood to the side and watched everything coldly. Lin Yunzhan softly comforted me. She only did it because she was too afraid. It is not that her nature is malicious. I nodded. I understand. Back then when someone covered my mouth and dragged me onto a boat, I was also that afraid. I was afraid I would never return to the capital. I was afraid I would never see my parents again. I was afraid mother would cry until she went blind. I was afraid father would become frantic with worry. I was afraid elder brother would not find me. I was afraid I would forget where I came from. So every day I waited. I waited for my parents to remember me. I waited for elder brother to come find me. I waited for the wind from the capital to blow to Yangzhou. Just like the year before, when I saw mother and elder brother in Yangzhou. Elder brother brought your new younger sister with him. His gaze passed over the boat I was on and did not stop for even a moment. Mother wore the pair of jade earrings I had given her as a birthday gift on her new daughter's ears. You were a loving mother and filial children. A harmonious family traveling to Jiangnan in the 3rd month to see fireworks, all to fulfill that new daughter's dream. From that day on I was no longer afraid because you had long forgotten me and no longer needed me. Madame Su stiffened, horror filling her eyes. You were in Jiangnan? You were the maidservant on that boat? Why did you not say so earlier? I smiled, bitterly. Because every time Madame stood before me, the one you mentioned was always her. If only once, Madame had asked how I lived all those years, perhaps I would have asked whether Madame remembered the little girl kneeling on the boat deck the year before, gagged and whipped. That was me. Madame does not remember. At that time, Madame felt sorry for your beloved daughter and covered her eyes. You even said the blood was dirty and not to frighten your Yao Er. Madame Su rushed forward to grab my clothes, but I immediately avoided her. Her hand froze in midair and she burst into tears. Mother truly did not know. She completely broke down, tears pouring down. Mother was wrong. Mother will make it up to you. Mother will use everything to make it up to you. I was unmoved. I merely shook the severance letter in my hand. Too late. I no longer need you. Every time there was a choice, you never chose me. Fortunately, I no longer need you either. In an instant, the Marquis seemed to age 10 years. He staggered into the grand chair, staring at the cold courtyard, outside the door, with empty eyes. Lin Yunjian trembled. I did not know you had suffered so much. If I had known, you knew. I cut him off, giving him no chance to defend himself. On the day I returned to the capital, I killed an evil servant. My sleeve was still stained with blood. You hurried away to invite a physician for your good younger sister. Your gaze passed over my blood-stained sleeve, and your brows even moved, slightly. You simply did not want to ask. The hand hidden in his sleeve clenched painfully into a fist. Lin Lianyao cried. She tugged Madame Su's sleeve and said chokingly, Mother, I did not know elder sister had suffered.
Thank you for
so
supporting
much.
Panda.
From now on,
if you enjoyed the story,
don't forget to
never
like,
again.
comment,
Madame
and
Sue
subscribe.
instinctively
Your
raised her
support
hand
helps
to
us
hold
bring
her,
you more
but as if
amazing
remembering
stories.
something,
Now,
her arm
let's
froze in
begin
midair.
story 2. Lin Lianyao rushed to Lin Yunjian, grasping his arm while crying. Elder brother, you know, I was only too afraid. I am a person of unknown origin, only an adopted daughter lower than others. I have always feared being looked down on and despised. I was wrong. I should not have harmed elder sister. I promise that after I marry into the duke's household, I will beg Consort Shen to take good care of elder sister. Lin Yunjian pressed his lips together and slowly turned his head away. Lin Lianyao panicked completely. She knelt before the Marquis and knocked her forehead to the ground again and again. Father, please. For the sake of the marriage with the duke's household, do not despise Yao. Yao knows she was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. The Marquis sighed heavily. The person before whom you should kneel is your elder sister. Lin Lianyao bit her lip, but she could not hide the unwillingness and hatred in her eyes. Step by step, she walked with difficulty before me. Everyone's gaze fell on me. With a thud, she knelt. Elder sister, please forgive me. Her forehead struck the floor again and again. Jingqiu immediately blocked her from me. I will accept this kneeling for my young lady. But if you want to force my young lady to forgive you against her will, keep dreaming. I laughed. Look, even 11-year-old Jingqiu understands this principle, yet you all are still dreaming, pretending to be deaf and mute. I glanced at Lin Lianyao. If you like kneeling, keep kneeling. In the future, there will be many times when you must kneel to live. Better to get used to it early than lose face later. I turned and pushed the door open. After grandmother's Memorial Day, I will move out of the Marquis Manor. Remember this clearly. My name is Pei Lingwei. I introduced myself before. You simply never bothered to ask. That is why you do not know how ruthless my abacus can be. The next day, the Shen family sent people over, but they did not come to propose marriage. They came to take Lin Lianyao as a concubine. I spent a little silver to spread the rumor through the capital that Lin Lianyao had drugged me in an attempt to ruin my chastity. Her reputation was utterly destroyed. Her glorious dream of marrying into the duke's household shattered, leaving only madness and hysteria on her face. Everything in her room was smashed to pieces. When Madame Su came to find me, the courtyard gate remained tightly shut. Across the door she choked out, 3 days from now is the palace banquet. Her Majesty the Empress Dowager has sent word that she wants you seated beside her. The Marquis says that after the banquet, you may have to enter the palace. Your mother has prepared your clothes and jewelry. As for the Empress Dowager's birthday, you should personally prepare a gift that will be both proper and dignified. Only at the end did she speak softly. Your father said that after the palace banquet, Yao will be sent into the duke's household. From now on, the Marquis Manor will have only one young lady, Jinyu. Jingqiu felt indignant for me. She did so many evil things, yet in the end she still gets to enter the duke's household and continue enjoying wealth and glory. Heaven truly is blind. I set down my teacup without raising my head. Heaven may be blind, but we have blades. We waited until today, precisely so we could step on her head and advance one step further, and everyone in the Marquis Manor should also be discarded completely. I had Treasure Pavilion make a fire phoenix hairpin for me, a phoenix returning with auspiciousness. I wanted to borrow this palace banquet to create a good omen. Lin Lianyao saw all of it. I knew she would not remain quiet. Conveniently, I had never planned to stop at the palace banquet either. She pretended to accidentally spill wine, wetting my dress. This time, Madame Su did not protect her. Instead, she took my hand and led me to change clothes. The brocade box and birthday gift were temporarily handed to Lin Yunjian for safekeeping. Madame Su wanted to personally change my clothes and arrange my hair, but I refused. Her hands clenched helplessly into fists and she could only comfort herself through tears. It is all right, take it slowly. But a broken mirror is hard to mend. Between us there was no such thing as a long future. When I returned to the banquet, Lin Lianyao was chatting happily with Consort Shen. Seeing me walk over slowly, she held up my brocade box before me. Elder sister's gift, I kept it for you. The box is locked. Ordinary people cannot open it. Not long after the banquet began, the palace servants accepted the gift and presented it before the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager praised my taste, saying the Fire Phoenix hairpin was bright and striking, perfect for someone of her age to command beauty and presence. The emperor's gaze paused on my face. While everyone quietly watched his expression, he nodded in satisfaction. The daughter of the Lin family is refined in character, graceful in mind, brave and resourceful. She truly has much of Princess Mincheng's bearing from years past. After great hardship comes great blessing. Your good fortune still lies ahead. With one sentence, he openly revealed imperial support and favor toward me. The noble consort who had once forced grandmother to her death lowered her phoenix eyes slightly, her hand tightening around her teacup. Consort Shen, who had enjoyed undiminished favor for many years, also stiffened in her gentle smile. Both of them quietly swept sharp gazes over my face. The Empress Dowager took all of it in. She kept me at Sinning Palace to ask questions. That action was like a blade, mercilessly slapping those people in the face. When I left the palace, it was already late at night. Lin Yunzhan was waiting for me. He reached toward me beside the carriage. Jinyu, being favored is a good thing, but you should not be too ostentatious. Once you become a target, every step in the future will be extremely difficult. I avoided his hand and lifted my skirt to board the carriage myself. Were those words also spoken by your good younger sister? How did my phoenix hairpin fall into her hands? Lin Yunzhan stiffened. She said Consort Shen only wanted to borrow it and look at it for a while. I looked at him. So to please Consort Shen, you handed over my possession. He did not dare meet my eyes. Yaoer is timid. She did not dare refuse Consort Shen. So to let her get what she wanted, you threw the risk of losing a head onto me alone. Lin Yunzhan's breath caught. How can you think that way? She was raised by the Marquis manor after all. She does not have that courage, nor such a vicious heart. I said nothing more, because the slap in the face came very quickly. The next day, before the emperor's eyes, the Fire Phoenix hairpin I had presented to the Empress Dowager suddenly shed 2 lines of blood-red tears from the phoenix's eyes. The sight shocked all the palace consorts pale. The Empress Dowager's Fire Phoenix hairpin had turned into an ill-omened chicken weeping blood. The emperor flew into rage, and the entire inner palace was shaken. When news came from the palace that the crime would be investigated, I was still holding my teacup without lifting my head. Lin Yunzhan, do you have anything to say? His face turned white and green by turns. Perhaps Yaoer did not do it on purpose. I turned to look at Lin Lianyao. My hairpin left my hand for only the time it takes an incense stick to burn. The box lock was pried open. If you want to know who tampered with the phoenix hairpin, a trip to the Ministry of Justice will make everything clear. Madame Su inhaled sharply. You intend to send Yaoer to the Ministry of Justice? If Consort Shen is involved, would that not mean opposing the East Palace? Lin Lianyao trembled and hurriedly hid in Madame Su's arms. It was not Consort Shen's fault. Last night I could not see clearly and accidentally dripped red wax onto the phoenix hairpin. Elder brother handed the hairpin to me, and elder sister personally presented it before the Empress Dowager. If this matter grows, the entire Marquis manor will be implicated. If elder sister wants to blame someone, blame me alone, but we absolutely cannot offend Consort Shen, much less harm elder brother. She hid the smugness in her eyes. She was waiting for me to become the abandoned one, for the Marquis manor to push me out to bear the guilt in order to preserve the heir and the marriage with the Duke's household. But I merely curved my lips. Jingqiu's gaze immediately turned cold. With one clean stroke, a blade cut across Lin Lianyao's eyes. She clutched them, blood flowing as she collapsed to the ground, screaming in anguish. I leaned back in the grand chair and did not even lift my eyelids. Kill her. Those useless eyes may as well be cut away. A disaster that could exterminate 9 clans must be filled with her head. Jingqiu raised the axe. Lin Lianyao immediately screamed, "If you kill me, can you also kill Consort Shen?" She gritted her teeth and decided to risk everything. It was Consort Shen, she wanted you dead, she said. Elder brother failed in his safekeeping and thus neglected his duty. You presented the gift without checking it, so you also cannot escape blame. No matter what, you cannot avoid responsibility. To protect the heir, the Marquis manor will definitely push you out to die. The Duke's household promised me that as long as this matter succeeded, after I bear a child they will raise me to equal wife. Would father truly oppose the East Palace for someone like you, whose future is already ruined? Every member of the Lin family went numb. Blood continued to run through Lin Lianyao's hands where they covered her face. She trembled from pain, but still forced herself to shout. It is all because you refused to stay in your place. Before entering the palace, you already stirred up the whole capital, humiliated consort Shen's younger brother, and made the duke's household lose face. You and she were destined to be irreconcilable. Consort Shen said that the higher you climbed, the harder you would fall. That is why she deliberately ruined your hairpin at the moment you were most proud, using the name of an ill omen to cut off your path into the palace. Her face was covered with blood, and her smile turned ferocious. Elder sister, now that your future is gone, the duke's household is the Marquis Manor's only ally. If you kill me, you will be slapping Consort Shen's face. The Marquis's hand trembled. Jinyu, it is not that father does not want to help you. It is that 72 lives in the Marquis Manor cannot be destroyed for you alone. Marquis, Madame Su cried out. Do you mean to push Jinyu out alone to bear the crime? The Marquis pressed his lips together. His silence was agreement. Lin Yunjian staggered one step, his voice weakening. She is my younger sister. Lin Lianyao laughed. When you handed your younger sister's gift to Consort Shen to curry favor as the dignified heir, did you not know how dangerous that was? Yet you still did it. Now you want to turn around and bite back? I guarantee that before you can accuse Consort Shen, His Majesty will punish you first. Lin Yunzan seemed to be struck by an invisible blow. His face turned deathly pale. He looked at me, his lips trembling several times, but in the end only silence remained. The Marca looked at me. I will beg His Majesty for mercy. Jinyu, enter the palace and admit guilt. I let out a faint breath and the corners of my lips curved. I truly feared that you would risk your lives for me. If that happened, I might have softened. The severance letter is in my hand. I will enter the palace and admit guilt myself. I will not implicate the Marquis Manor. Madame Su screamed and rushed forward. Jinyu, do not. She hugged me tightly and cried until her body shook. I looked at her and asked one final question. The Marquis Manor does not dare offend the East Palace, so it does not dare accuse Consort Shen. Then if I do not go, let the heir enter the palace and admit guilt for failing to guard the gift properly. That would also avoid disaster. Madam, can you bear to do that? Madame Su's sobs stopped. Elder brother is the heir of the Marquis Manor. He cannot carry a stain. I smiled faintly. He would only carry a stain. I would die. Clearly sending him would be much more profitable. Madame Su's hands slowly loosened from me. How can you say that? He is your elder brother. I laughed. So Madame has made her choice. They are all more important than me. Why pretend to be reluctant and attached, just to soothe your conscience? That year, because Madame fought with a close friend over a piece of jade, you handed me and the heir to the Marquis to watch over. But the Marquis was worried about his future and court affairs, so he left us alone in the carriage. The heir was playful and chased a candied horse seller, even taking along the servant who was supposed to watch us. That was why I was kidnapped by traffickers and lived under whips for more than 10 years. The three of them were shaken. Their pupils shrank, and their faces filled with disbelief. I turned away. All of you owe me, yet you gave that compensation to the fake heiress. Because you never truly loved me, you merely wanted your conscience to be at peace. It was so in the past and it is still so today. I pushed the door open and walked out. Marquis, take me into the palace to admit guilt. The Marquis's throat moved. Jinyu, that is your life. My steps paused, then continued without hesitation. But I do not accept fate. Lin Lianyao laughed loudly. Ha ha ha. In the end, you are still the one abandoned. You should never have returned. From beginning to end, you were the extra one. You were never worthy of fighting me. I may be blind now, and my future may not be easy, but Lin Jinyu, once you fall into Consort Shen's hands, you will not live either. Dragging one person down with me is not a loss. The Duke's household will not treat me poorly, and Consort Shen will not abandon me. But very soon she could no longer laugh. When the Marquis knelt before His Majesty and righteously requested to accept guilt on my behalf, every word blamed me for carelessness, recklessness and eagerness for fame. The Emperor's gaze stopped on my cold face. Do you have anything to say? I took out the severance document. I, your subject, have severed ties with the Marquis Manor. This matter is my fault alone and has nothing to do with the manor. Whether reward or punishment, I ask to bear it alone. The Marquis pressed his lips together and said nothing. The Emperor looked at me for a long time, then laughed. Marquis of Jiangnan, you have truly broadened our horizons. Eunuch Li announced the edict. The imperial decree was opened, and Eunuch Li read in a clear voice, by the mandate of heaven, the Emperor decrees, Pei Lingwei, legitimate daughter of the household of the Marquis of Jiangnan, brought forth the auspicious omen of the phoenix's rebirth, aiding the seventh prince in recovering from his long illness and bringing blessing to the state. She is specially conferred the title Noble Lady Ling and shall enter the palace immediately without further selection. The Marquis was shocked. How can this be? A phoenix's rebirth? A noble lady? Not a punishment? Eunuch Li smiled. Noble Lady Ling's golden phoenix hairpin symbolized the phoenix's rebirth from fire, an omen of great fortune. Sheltered by that blessing, the seventh prince recovered today from the old illness that had plagued him for years. How could I fail to guard against something that had fallen into Lin Lianyao's hands? The golden phoenix and the fire phoenix were two hairpins I had prepared in advance. They wanted to turn the phoenix into blood tears, so I followed the current. After the banquet, I personally went to the Empress Dowager to exchange the fire phoenix for the golden phoenix, letting the fire phoenix melt when heated. The golden phoenix emerged from the flames and became the auspicious sign of the harem. The seventh prince's illness had not suddenly improved that day. While I was still staying at the separate residence outside the capital, the heart-nourishing pill I had brought from Yangzhou had already reached his hands. His birth mother had died early, and he had no support in the six palaces. Even with the Empress Dowager's affection, he still needed allies. I used one life-saving pill to save him and show sincerity to the Empress Dowager. In return, I not only obtained the sword she bestowed on me, but also gained an ally among the princes. I had not yet entered the palace, yet my hand had already reached into the struggle among the princes. That was why I had endured again and again, allowing Lin Lianyao to jump before me like a clown without ending her with one stroke and destroying my own future. My abacus had calculated very carefully. A fake heiress like her was not worthy of dirtying my hem. The Marquis fell heavily to the ground, his face gray as ash. Consort Shen's palace maid, who had damaged my hairpin, was beaten to death in the imperial garden. Consort Shen's false benevolence, the Marquis Manor's hesitation and double-dealing, and the emperor's partiality were all exposed before the world. Marquis Yong'an, cold-heartedly chasing power, had framed his own daughter and forced her to take the blame for an adopted daughter. For corrupt virtue and staining the honor of a noble house, His Majesty stripped him of the Marquis title on the spot. The title would never again be inherited. His bloodshot eyes looked at me. You knew everything long ago? You would rather destroy the whole Marquis Manor than share honor and disgrace with us? I looked at him indifferently. I was the one who suffered disgrace. What right do you have to share my blessings? Keeping a group of fools like you would only give me a massive burden. I am not surnamed Lin. From beginning to end my name has been Pei Lingwei. Lin Qingshan seemed to have all his spirit drained away. In the blink of an eye he aged more than 10 years. Then the emperor extended his hand toward me. The Marquis Manor is gone, and your maternal clan has fallen. Are you afraid there will be no one behind you to rely on? I smiled and placed my hand in his palm. I do not need them. Having your majesty is enough. An emperor is naturally suspicious. But when I reclaimed grandmother's dowry, I was upright and justified. When I turned against the aristocratic families, I was open and decisive. When I severed ties with the Marquis Manor, I was even more ruthless and without hesitation. Without scheming in circles or weighing every gain and loss, he appreciated my openness, believed in my true nature, and pitied my loneliness and lack of family affection. I had no backing, and that became my greatest backing. 3 days later, all of grandmother's relics were delivered intact into the palace. The Lin family and I officially severed ties. Because they had sold their daughter for glory, the Lin family became the target of criticism throughout the capital. On the day I moved all my property away, Madame Su waited for a long time, but did not see me even once. She coughed blood and fainted. From then on, she was bedridden. I heard that every day she tightly held those jade earrings, unable to die and unable to live properly, slowly wasting away on her sickbed. Lin Yunzan lost the support of the Marquis Manor. His engagement fell apart, his future ended, and he could no longer lift his head. Only the Marquis poured all his anger onto Lin Lianyao. He planned to throw her into the Duke's household and leave her for others to tear apart. Unexpectedly, Lin Lianyao screamed and stabbed him through the chest with a hairpin. From then on, he was ill for the rest of his life, and even breathing brought pain. They had no place left in the capital, and feared that one day I would settle accounts with them, making the whole family live worse than death. That very night, Lin Yunzhan took them all back to their old home in Yunzhou. 3 months later, my brothers in Jiangnan sent me a tooth, and 100,000 taels in banknotes to buy loyalty and support. The silver came from the waterways. The tooth had been pulled from Lin Yunzhan's mouth. The letter contained only one line: "Do not kill." You suffered 13 years of blood and tears on the waterways. They should taste that many years of it too. I had elder brothers who favored and protected me as well. They feared I would dirty my hands, so they removed the remaining trouble for me. They stayed in Jiangnan, living by the blade and accumulating silver to fulfill my greater ambition. As for me, I held firmly to His Majesty's favor, stepped steadily through the palace gates, and completed my first step. The investiture ceremony was not too grand. Consort Shen sent someone to deliver a dressing mirror, while the noble consort sent a pot of coral. When Jingqiu saw them, she laughed coldly. They have no good intentions. There is hidden poison in the mirror, and medicine has been mixed into the coral pot. Each one is a blade that kills without drawing blood. I tightened my grip around the sword the Empress Dowager had bestowed. Are you afraid? Jingqiu's gaze turned sharp. If one comes, I kill one. If two come, I destroy them both. Jingqiu is not afraid. Then, the grudge against Consort Shen for framing me, and the hatred against the noble consort for forcing grandmother to her death, should now be settled. Thank you for supporting Panda. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more amazing stories. Now, let's begin story 2. My name is Shen Wei, the legitimate daughter of the great general who guards the state. At 15, I entered the palace with 10 miles of red bridal dowry, and now I hold the rank of noble consort. From the very first day I stepped through the dazzling vermilion gates of the Forbidden City, my mother held my hand tightly and warned me with tears in her eyes, "Once you enter the deep palace, you must endure everything. But you must never yield the position of empress." I carved those words into my heart. In this palace I had only one true enemy, Consort Shu Wang, Wang Yaru, the legitimate daughter of the Minister of Revenue. She was gifted in literature, smooth and clever in every direction. I was skilled in martial arts, swift and fierce as thunder and wind. We fought over everything, from the bolts of brocade bestowed by the emperor to whose maidservants swept the snow cleaner. For 10 years of our youth, Consort Shu and I wished we could throw mud into each other's bowls of bird's nest soup every day. Our struggle threw the entire 6 palaces into chaos, all for the sake of winning one glance of favor from the emperor, until one late spring afternoon. That day, I wore a flowing immortal-style brocade robe embroidered with gold thread. On my head was a phoenix hairpin holding a pearl in its beak. With a dignified, imposing air, I led my palace maids on a stroll through the imperial garden. My true purpose was to block Consort Shu's path and mock the stiff, copied poetic essay she had written the day before. As expected, I caught her standing in front of the Lake Tai rockery, holding a silk fan that covered half her face, her gaze as sharp as a blade. I had just curled my lips ready to unleash a poisonous line when Consort Shu suddenly turned pale. She hurriedly grabbed my sleeve and dragged me behind a large rock. "Have you gone mad?" I glared at her and was about to pull out my hairpin to stab her with it. "Shh! Look over there." She clenched her teeth and tilted her chin toward the peony bushes. Through the leaves, I saw the emperor holding a woman dressed in an extremely thin, pale silk gown in his arms. It was Attendant Liu, the daughter of an 8th-rank county magistrate, who had only recently entered the palace. She was famous for her willow-like figure, so delicate it seemed to bend in the breeze. Every step she took looked as if she were treading on cotton. After every 3 sentences, she would gasp once, and her eyes were always wet, as though the entire world owed her a debt. Just as Consort Shu and I held our breath, waiting to watch this lovebird drama unfold, Attendant Liu suddenly cried out in alarm, twisted her body and collapsed into the emperor's arms. "Your Majesty, it hurts so much." Her voice trembled with sobs as she raised one fair, delicate hand. The emperor's expression changed. He hastily grabbed her hand, his eyes bloodshot with distress. I narrowed my eyes and stared hard, straining the eyesight of a general's daughter to see whether her hand had been struck by a hidden weapon or a poisoned arrow. In the end, on the back of that tiny hand, there was a pink mosquito bite the size of a mung bean. That was right, a mosquito bite. "How dare you, you worthless servants!" the emperor roared. His imperial authority exploded outward as he kicked away the trembling eunuch kowtowing beside him. "How were you standing guard? How could you let a mosquito bite my beloved consort? Her skin is as fragile as jade. If it leaves a scar, I will behead every one of your families. Hurry and summon the Imperial Medical Bureau. Tell every chief physician to come here and apply medicine for Attendant Liu. Move! If you are late by even 1 incense stick and my beloved consort faints, bring your heads to me yourselves." Attendant Liu leaned against the emperor's chest, coughed twice, and squeezed out a few tears. "Your Majesty, please do not punish them. It is only because my skin is too delicate and cannot bear even a cold breeze. My good beloved consort, you are far too kind and forgiving. My heart aches for you. Later, I will give you the ruby jade necklace the Empress Dowager just rewarded me with, so you can calm your nerves. On our side of the rockery, the silence was terrifying. I slowly turned to look at Consort Shu. The fine powder on her face seemed to crack. She widened her phoenix eyes and looked at me. I looked back at her. In that instant, I suddenly felt that the two of us were utterly ridiculous. I had started horse dance training at 5. At 10, I could draw a strong bow and a heavy crossbow, and I was well versed in military tactics. Yet, for the sake of serving the emperor, I had hidden away the sword I had practiced with since childhood and learned to walk in a delicate, graceful manner. Consort Shu had memorized the 4 books and 5 classics at 5. At 10, she had helped her mother manage the accounts of the vast minister's residence. Yet for one smile from the emperor, she had stayed up day and night embroidering until all 10 of her fingers bled. We had wasted 10 years of youth and exhausted every scheme. We had dragged our families into a palace struggle as bloody as a river, merely to fight over a fat, biased, blind pig who could not tell the difference between a mosquito bite and a fatal wound. My chest suddenly felt light, as if 10 years of resentment, jealousy, and bitterness had been swept clean by one poisonous gust of wind. I waved my maidservants farther away, then reached into my wide sleeve and rummaged for a while. Consort Shu warily took half a step back. Shen Zhuwei, what hidden weapon are you planning to use? I pulled out my hand and opened my palm in front of her. Inside was a fragrant handful of salt and pepper melon seeds. Want some? I asked. My tone had never been so calm. Consort Shu froze for 3 seconds. Then she looked back at the emperor, who was carrying Attendant Liu away in a panic to find the physicians, as if he were fleeing a disaster. She let out a long breath. She reached out, picked up a melon seed, cracked it expertly, and spat the shell onto the grass. A little salty, Consort Shu commented. Noble Lady Chen secretly sent them to me yesterday. Make do with them. I also cracked one and chewed. Under the setting sun, noble Consort Shen and Consort Shuang hid shoulder to shoulder behind the rockery, spitting melon seed shells onto the ground. Neither of us said another word. Yet amid the crisp cracking of melon seeds, 10 years of hatred turned to dust. Love for the emperor? Forget it. Let the green tea schemer enjoy it all. From now on, we would withdraw from the stage and leave it to that ridiculous man and woman to perform their comedy. After the mosquito bite incident that shook the imperial garden, Consort Shu and I officially called a truce. Not only that, we decided to expand our circle and recruit more members to relieve the lonely days of the Deep Palace. The first candidate was noble Lady Chen, the daughter of an imperial merchant in Jiangnan, whose family was so rich that their walls seemed to crack from wealth. She had entered the palace only because her father had accidentally donated too much money to the state treasury. Her temperament was open and straightforward, and her passion for food was far greater than her passion for competing for favor. The second candidate was talented Lady Li, the legitimate daughter of the grand historian. She was a true bookworm. Wherever she went, she carried a small notebook and a writing brush, as if she wished she could record which corner of the palace every stray dog used to relieve itself. The 4 of us chose the water pavilion as our base. It was a secluded tower in the middle of a lotus pond, where the wind blew freely and few people passed by. I called you all here today because there is a great matter to discuss. I sat cross-legged on a rosewood couch, propping my chin on one hand, looking no different from a bandit leader holding a gang meeting. Consort Shu pulled a thick stack of banknotes from her sleeve and placed it on the table with a crisp slap. Then she lazily flicked a finger covered by a gold-plated nail guard. My maternal family just sent in 1,000 taels. Sister Shen has also contributed ginseng and deer antler worth 800 taels. I would like to ask you sisters how this fortune should be used properly. In the past, silver belonging to the palace ladies had all been used to bribe the office of palace service, hoping the eunuchs would turn over their name tablets, or to bribe the imperial kitchen so they could steal another woman's bird's nest soup. But now things were different. Noble Lady Chen's eyes lit up and drool almost spilled from her mouth. Buy all the tribute lychees. A few days ago I saw the Imperial Household Department bring in a whole cart. Talented Lady Li pushed up her jade spectacles and said seriously, vulgar. Buy the finest Xuancheng paper and Huizhou ink. I have been taking so many notes lately that I am using up paper and ink too quickly. We should buy both. I waved my hand with grand heroic spirit. But first, we must establish an intelligence network. Because of that mosquito bite the other day, that green tea attendant Liu has been promoted to concubine Liu. The emperor is so obsessed with her that he would pluck the stars from the sky if she asked. Although we have washed our hands of battle and no longer care about favor, The rear palace is too dull. Without a good show to watch, how are we supposed to live? And so half the banknotes were handed to trusted eunuchs. When Xiao Luzi, the chief eunuch at my side, held the money, his hands shook violently. He secretly thought that noble consort Shen had finally decided to take action against that concubine Liu. Who would have guessed that the secret order I gave was this: every day keep watch on the imperial study and the imperial household department. Whenever the emperor and concubine Liu made fools of themselves, immediately run back and report every detail. Not even a hiccup was to be omitted. Only 3 days later, the money displayed its miraculous power. That afternoon, the breeze blew softly. The 4 of us had spread bamboo mats in the water pavilion, and were grilling sizzling goat meat over a charcoal brazier. Noble Lady Chen was flipping a piece of fatty meat that hissed as the oil dripped, smacking her lips. Suddenly, Xiao Luzi rushed in as fast as his legs could carry him. He tripped over the threshold and fell flat on the floor, but his mouth was still stretched into a radiant grin, as though he had struck gold. Reporting to all your highnesses, I bring fresh news from the imperial study. Talented Lady Li immediately threw aside the half-eaten piece of meat in her hand, dipped her brush into ink, and stared with blazing eyes. Speak quickly. Xiao Luzi cleared his throat and swayed his body, imitating concubine Liu's floating manner. At noon today, concubine Liu personally stewed ginseng soup and carried it to the imperial study to pay respects to His Majesty. Today she wore a delicate 100-butterfly brocade robe and the new jade phoenix hairpin she had just been rewarded. Get to the point, Consort Shu said, tapping the table. Yes, unfortunately, a Western region envoy had just presented a 5-colored parrot as large as a thigh. The parrot was extremely clever and was perched on a wooden stand, nodding to itself. The moment it saw concubine Liu enter and heard her call out sweetly, "Your Majesty," the parrot's eyes suddenly widened. It flapped its wings and flew straight at her, shouting, "Demon! Demon!" I spat the tea in my mouth directly onto noble Lady Chen's face, but she had no time to care. Her mouth was hanging open as she urged him on. And then, the parrot mistook concubine Liu's jade hairpin for a green worm and swooped down to peck at it again and again. Concubine Liu was so frightened she screamed and flung the whole bowl of hot ginseng soup. She clutched her head and ran circles around the imperial study. Her hair ornaments fell everywhere, her powder washed away, and whether it was a spider bun or a dragon bun, it all became a crow's nest. When the emperor saw his precious darling being attacked, his heart ached so badly that he rushed over to catch the bird. Who could have known he would step right into the spilled soup, slide several yards across the floor, and smash his face into the leg of the imperial desk. A lump the size of a hen's egg immediately swelled up. Pfft! Ha 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 ha! The water pavilion erupted with laughter so violent that even the carved window lattice seemed to shake. Noble Lady Chen clutched her stomach and rolled across the floor laughing, almost planting her face into the brazier. Consort Shu, who was usually so dignified and proper, covered her mouth with a handkerchief and laughed until her lipstick smeared, slapping her thigh again and again. I laughed until tears streamed down my thigh face and patted Xiao Luzi on the shoulder. Well done. 10 taels of silver as your reward. Ha ha ha, demon. That bird is truly a divine bird. Tomorrow I must find a way to buy the finest millet bird feed and send it to the imperial kitchen to nourish that parrot. Talented Lady Li wrote as swiftly as if her brush had grown wings, muttering as she wrote, "In autumn of the 3rd year of Jingming, concubine Liu caused His Majesty to fall flat on his face because of a bowl of soup. A divine bird appeared and pecked the demon. Truly priceless historical material." I lifted my teacup and narrowed my eyes at my 3 good sisters. Under the sunset, roasted meat smoke curled upward and laughter rang out. Since the establishment of our round table society, our lives in the deep palace had suddenly become as bright as brocade embroidered with flowers. No longer did we have to rise before dawn, suffer through makeup, and wait on the emperor. Now I only had to wear a soft casual robe of silks, twist my hair up loosely with a simple wooden hairpin, and leisurely go to the water pavilion for tea and snacks. That day the autumn wind was chilly. Noble Lady Chen brought a plate of hot osmanthus cakes, while Consort Shu sat nearby clicking her abacus beads, checking the hidden fund. Suddenly, Talented Lady Li rushed in from the corridor, her 2 side buns coming loose, a family letter sealed with red wax waving in her hand. Fresh gossip from the outer court sisters. Talented Lady Li was panting, so excited that her jade spectacles had slipped all the way down her nose. I quickly pushed the osmanthus cakes aside and leaned closer. What news did your father send this time? Open it and read it for me. Did the emperor make another fool of himself at morning court? Talented Lady Li took a sip of tea to catch her breath, smoothed the paper flat, cleared her throat, and began reading with theatrical feeling. Sisters, do you still remember Censor Liu? That old man surnamed Liu with white hair and a white beard, who submits a memorial every 3 days scolding the rear palace for extravagance and waste. The one who cursed Sister Consort Shu and me for wearing cloud brocade, saying we were harming the country and the people, and demanding that we wear coarse cloth, eat vegetarian meals, and chant Buddhist scriptures? Of course I remember. Consort Shu gave a cold snort, her nails digging into the edge of the abacus. Last month he submitted a memorial saying rouge and powder in the rear palace cost too much. Because of him, the emperor cut my allowance for fragrances. On the surface he pretends to lecture us on morality, and says women should obey the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. What happened to him? Talented Lady Li curled her lips in a sly smile. Last night he secretly hid from his wife and chartered a pleasure boat on the Qinhuai River, so he could drink wines and admire the most famous courtesan there. Tisk, tisk, tisk. The 3 of us clicked our tongues in contempt at the same time. And then? Was he caught in the act? I slapped my thigh excitedly. Better than being caught in the act. Censor Liu's wife was born into a pig butcher's family. After receiving the news, she took a 3-foot-long butcher's knife, broke the plank bridge with 1 kick, and charged straight onto the pleasure boat. Old Liu was reciting a poem about the moon. When he saw his wife descend like a wrathful god, his limbs went weak with fright. He backed away several steps, slipped, and fell into the river with a splash. Noble Lady Chen laughed so hard she choked, pounding her chest as she coughed. Ha ha ha! The Qinhuai River in the 10th month is cold enough to cut flesh. Did that old man not freeze solid? Talented Lady Li flipped to the 2nd page of the letter, her voice growing more dramatic. That was not all. The best part happened at morning court today. My father said that after Censor Liu was fished out, he looked like a half-dead chicken. But because he was afraid of committing the crime of deceiving the ruler, he still gritted his teeth and attended court this morning. He wore his black gauze court hat, but inside it he had wrapped a thick woolen scarf to keep warm. While the emperor was discussing affairs of state, old Liu suddenly sneezed loudly. I held my breath. And then the sneeze echoed through the entire hall of supreme harmony. The woolen scarf burst out, and the black gauze hat fell to the floor and rolled away. Old Liu hurriedly tried to cover his face. Who could have known that the memorial in his sleeve would fly straight out, soar into the air, and smack the emperor in the face with a loud slap? My father, as grand historian, stood right beside them and recorded it clearly. Between 7 and 9 in the morning, Censor Liu, chilled after falling into water, struck His Majesty in the face with a memorial. Now old Liu is kneeling outside the Hall of Benevolent Peace begging to accept punishment, with snot all over his face. Ha ha ha. The water pavilion once again exploded with laughter until the roof seemed to tremble. I laughed until my stomach hurt and tears poured out. Serves that old hypocrite right. Consort Shu laughed until her body shook. She casually pulled a gold hairpin inlaid with jade from her hair and tossed it into the middle of the table. Come sisters, open the betting pool. I bet old Liu will claim illness and stay home for at least 5 days before daring to show his face at work again. Talented Lady Li placed down an agarwood hairpin. I bet 3 days. That old man has an extremely thick face. 3 days at most. Noble Lady Chen took off an agate bracelet and placed it down. I calmly removed the double-fish jade pendant from my waist and tossed it onto the pile of wagers. I bet 1 month. You sisters do not understand martial arts, so you do not know. In autumn, falling into cold water and then being frightened out of one's soul by a butcher's knife lets evil cold invade the body. If he does not lie in bed for a full month, it will be a miracle. Besides, after smacking a memorial onto the scumbag emperor's face, even if he grew 10 more livers, he would still have to hide. The chatter, laughter and melon seed cracking rang out again. State affairs and court politics became, in the mouths of us neglected palace women, nothing more than comic tales. Before the storm around Censor Liu had passed, our water pavilion received an uninvited guest. It was late afternoon. We were gathered around the mahjong table. Noble Lady Chen had just shouted self-draw and was about to collect money when the wooden door creaked open. Concubine Liu walked in. By rank, she was only a concubine. When meeting a noble consort like me, she should have knelt properly and paid respects. But ever since she had been favored all the way up to the heavens, her chin had always been tilted at a 45-degree angle. The autumn wind was bitterly cold, and dry leaves were falling everywhere. Yet Concubine Liu wore a gown made of thin, misty gauze. Its collar was cut deep enough to show her collarbones, and her waist was tightened so much that I suspected she could not breathe. She walked with fragile, willow-like steps. Her personal maid had to support her arm as though she were half paralyzed. This concubine greets noble consort Shen and consort Shu. She bent her knees in an extremely perfunctory curtsy, then drew out a mandarin duck embroidered handkerchief to cover her mouth and cough weakly. Cough, cough. Sisters, please forgive me. These past few days His Majesty has come to my courtyard every night. Serving him has been exhausting and my body has become rather weak. After saying this, she glanced around, clearly trying to find jealousy and hatred on our faces. If this had been half a month ago, I would definitely have drawn my whip and lashed her until she was a mess, while Consort Shu would have released 18 cutting remarks. But now Consort Shu merely arranged her mahjong tiles unhurriedly, then raised her head and looked at concubine Liu with utmost sincerity. It must be exhausting. Then Sister Liu must take care of her health. The autumn wind is poisonous. Dress so thinly, if you catch a chill, His Majesty will have to stay up all night scraping your back with a coin. I nodded in agreement, grabbing a handful of melon seeds. Exactly. Xiao Luzi, quickly bring concubine Liu a large armchair. Put it right in the doorway where the wind is freshest, so Her Highness can wake herself up. Concubine Liu choked. Her script had been thrown off rhythm. She stood frozen, seeing that no one was angry, no one slammed the table, and no one chased her away. We even pulled over a whole row of chairs, sat in rows, and took out cakes and melon seeds while staring at her as if waiting to watch a magic trick. You sisters are not angry? Concubine Liu bit her lip, tears starting to gather in her eyes again. His Majesty said that because he rewarded me with a luminous pearl presented by the island kingdoms, he feared noble consort sister would be upset. So he told me to come and apologize. Noble Lady Chen chewed a mung bean cake and blurted out, "Can a luminous pearl be ground up and eaten? What is there to be upset about? Little sister, cry. Hurry and cry a bit more for me. That expression you made the other day was very pretty." Concubine Liu shook with anger. Just then, heavy footsteps sounded from the corridor, followed by a eunuch's loud announcement. "His Majesty has arrived!" Concubine Liu's eyes flashed. In less than a tenth of a blink, her delicate body swayed violently. She drew in a cold breath, let out an exceptionally soft moan, then slowly closed her eyes and fell backward. At that exact moment, a bright yellow, dragon-robed figure stepped through the doorway. "My treasure!" The Emperor let out a heart-rending roar and lunged forward, catching concubine Liu just before she touched the ground. In the scumbag Emperor's arms, concubine Liu breathed weakly while tears streamed down her cheeks. "Your Majesty, do not blame the sisters. It is only that my fate is bitter, and I cannot bear the pressure of noble consort's presence." The Emperor abruptly raised his head, glaring at the four of us as we sat in a row, cracking melon seeds. "You are truly a pack of cold-blooded poisonous women. I have tolerated you, yet you still joined together to bully concubine Liu. None of us hurried to kneel and beg forgiveness. As for me, Shen Juwei, I had always been a straightforward person. How could I tolerate such incompetence in martial arts?" I stood up with a whoosh, clapped the seed shells from my hands, and analyzed solemnly. "Your Majesty has misunderstood. With the eye of someone who has practiced martial arts for 10 years, this consort judges that Sister Liu's fall just now was extremely skillful. The angle of her backward lean was a perfectly precise 45 degrees. When she fell, she secretly tightened her abdominal and thigh muscles to protect her spine, proving that her inner strength is profound. Even while fainting, she could control the direction of her fall and land accurately in Your Majesty's arms. She is truly a once-in-10,000 martial prodigy." Consort Shu, seated beside me, shrugged and added, "Moreover, Your Majesty should look closely." She cried so sorrowfully, yet the rouge and powder on her face ran messily and even revealed freckles beneath the corner of her eye. "If Your Majesty truly loves her, please reward her with more silver so she can buy proper rose balm. The powder she is using is too cheap, and it has dirtied Your Majesty's dragon robe." Talented Lady Li nodded, her brush scratching rapidly across the paper. On this day, concubine Liu displayed the supreme art of falling backward. Noble consort exposed the demon's abdominal muscles. The scumbag emperor stood frozen with concubine Liu in his arms. His women had always either wept with jealousy or knelt and begged for mercy. What poison had these neglected consorts eaten, to sit here analyzing his beloved consort's abdominal muscles and cosmetics? You are outrageous!" The Emperor became angry from embarrassment. His face turned purple-red as he lifted concubine Liu in his arms. "Shen Juwei, you have relied on favor and become arrogant. You are unworthy of managing the 6 palaces. Today I will take back the Phoenix Seal and remove your authority over the rear palace. All of you are confined to your courtyards for 1 month. Without my order, you are forbidden to step outside by even half a step." After saying this, the scumbag emperor angrily carried his treasure away. He did not forget to kick over a pot of chrysanthemums by the door to vent his anger. Watching that yellow figure disappear, The water pavilion fell silent for several breaths. Then noble Lady Chen timidly raised her hand. Being confined for 1 month means that for this whole month, we do not have to wake up before dawn to pay respects to His Majesty, and we do not have to copy Buddhist scriptures to pray for his peace either. Consort Shu gently poured a cup of tea, the corner of her lips lifted into a satisfied smile, and noble consort sister has escaped that pile of deficit-ridden account books from the imperial household department. From now on, she no longer needs to use money from her maternal family to patch the holes left by His Majesty's extravagance. I stretched luxuriously and felt that the whole sky had never been so blue and lovable. I turned toward Xiao Luzi, who had turned to stone beside a pillar and waved loudly. Why are you still standing there? Close the courtyard gate and hang up a sign that says no visitors. I have been confined. Go drag the brazier over here. Tonight we will hold a barbecue feast to celebrate. His Majesty had issued a confinement order. From the outside, people probably thought the 4 of us were washing our faces with tears day and night, repenting of our crimes. In reality, the moment the wooden gate closed, the water pavilion turned into a small tavern, with grilled meat, smoke rising day and night. That afternoon, the autumn wind rustled over the withered lotus pond. Inside the water pavilion, the charcoal brazier glowed red. Noble Lady Chen was briskly turning skewers of roasted lamb, sprinkled with sesame so fragrant it made one's mouth water. Consort Shu and talented Lady Li were gathered around the mahjong table, and the atmosphere was extremely tense. Xiao Luzi crawled in with difficulty through the dog hole under the courtyard wall. Dry grass stuck to his head. He dusted off his hands and happily pulled a red wax-sealed letter from inside his robe. Your Highness Consort Shu, a letter from your family has arrived. When Consort Shu heard the words family letter, her eyes immediately lit up. She threw her mahjong tile onto the table and hurriedly broke the seal to read. At first, the corner of her mouth still held a graceful smile. But by the 3rd line, her dignified and elegant face suddenly stiffened. Dark lines seemed to appear across her forehead, and the corners of her lips twitched repeatedly. What is it? Did something happen at the minister's residence? I raised an eyebrow and reached for a lamb skewer, biting into it. Talented Lady Li pushed up her jade spectacles, pulled out her notebook and brush and prepared to take notes. Did your father submit another memorial scolding someone and get beaten? Or was he caught by a censor for corruption? Consort Shu folded the letter and let out a long breath, her expression half amused and half embarrassed. She rubbed her temples. It is not court business. It is only a petty family matter. You sisters still remember my father, do you not? Minister Wang, head of the Ministry of Revenue, the man who controlled the national treasury and was famous throughout the realm as honest and upright. Of course I remember. The imperial tutor once used your honorable father as an example for my brothers to study from, I confirmed with a nod. Consort Shu gritted her teeth. Honest my foot, that old man secretly hid private money. He hid it with extreme sophistication, hollowing out a whole space beneath a sandalwood bedpost in his study and hiding more than 3,000 taels in banknotes. This went on for 5 whole years without my mother knowing. Noble Lady Chen's mouth fell open, and she nearly dropped her skewer. 3,000 taels? If he hid it so well, how was he discovered? There were rats in the minister's residence yesterday. My mother ordered the maids to flip the bed over to catch them. Who could have known that the rats were not caught, but a pile of gnawed papers was dragged out instead? My mother looked closely and realized they were 100-tael banknotes. She immediately sealed the study and summoned my father back for interrogation. At first, that old man denied everything and claimed the money was temporary public funds from the Ministry of Revenue. Only when my mother pulled out the family law to threaten him did he confess that it was a private fund he had secretly saved to buy antique calligraphy and paintings and to bet on cricket fights. I laughed so hard I nearly doubled over, pounding the table until it shook. I thought the civil officials of the outer court were all so dignified. It turns out that once they go home, they fear their wives like tigers. He even hid private money and had it chewed by rats. Talented Lady Li's brush flew across the page, her eyes sparkling. Write it down, write it down. The Minister of Revenue privately stored secret funds, exposed by a rat. Truly, the wheel of heaven turns, and though heaven's net is wide, not even a rat can chew through it. Then how did Madame punish him? Consort Shu coughed, and her expression became even stranger. My mother was born into a military official family and has a fiery temper. She made my father kneel on wild chestnut shells. I was chewing meat, but when I heard the words wild chestnut shells, I froze. Noble Lady Chen also blinked. The 2 of us looked at each other. Wait, I said, stroking my chin in thought. Wild chestnuts are a tribute product from the Shu region. Their outer shells are covered in sharp spines like hedgehog quills. His Majesty disliked them because shelling them could easily prick his fingers until they bled. Concubine Liu coquettishly said that just looking at those spines frightened her and hurt her delicate eyes. So all 20 baskets of tribute chestnuts were thrown into the cold storeroom of the Imperial Household Department to mold. People in the capital should not have been able to find those original sharp shells. Noble Lady Chen slapped her thigh and cried out, "That's right. Last month when those chestnuts were about to spoil, I felt it was a waste, so I secretly ordered Xiao Luzi to take the nuts out and roast them with sugar. As for the sharp shells, I hid them in the coal ash cart and smuggled them out of the palace to sell to several madams for our society's hidden fund." Sister Consort Shu, did your mother buy that pile of spiny shells for 50 taels? Consort Shu stared wide-eyed at Noble Lady Chen, then at me. Finally she covered her face, her shoulders shaking violently. "So we were the ones who supplied the weapon Madam Minister used to punish her husband." Tribute chestnut shells were dry and hard, with sharp, jagged spines that could pierce even thick socks. Old Minister Wang was already elderly. Now he had to kneel on those vicious things, and they had even been smuggled out and sold by his own daughter. This was truly karma. Retribution. This is retribution. I hugged my stomach and rolled on the bamboo mat laughing. Consort Shu, record the 50 taels from selling chestnut shells directly in the account book as the minister's residence's purchase of family discipline tools. Ha ha ha, I am going to laugh myself to death. That day, our barbecue feast lasted until deep into the night. Time passed in the blink of an eye, and soon it was the autumn hunt, the grandest royal hunting event of the season. The Round Table Society's confinement order was naturally lifted. According to ancestral precedent, the rear palace consorts had to accompany the emperor, cheer him on, and admire his majestic, heroic bearing. Early in the morning, the imperial procession left the capital with great fanfare and headed for the hunting grounds. As noble consort, I, Shen Zisui, naturally had the right to sit in a spacious carriage lined with luxurious brocade and velvet. But I found it boring, so I used loneliness as an excuse and dragged Consort Shu, Noble Lady Chen, and talented Lady Li into my carriage to play mahjong the whole way. The hunting grounds were shaded by ancient trees, and crimson maple leaves had fallen in a carpet across the earth. My father, the great general who guards the state, was responsible for all security at the autumn hunt. He had already secretly arranged an excellent tent for us. This tent stood on a small hillside with a sweeping view of the entire hunting field. Around it were 3 layers of elite armored imperial guards. Not even a bird could fly through. "Your father is far too thoughtful," Consort Shu said, sitting cross-legged on a long couch and holding a spyglass as she looked down. "Cracking melon seeds and watching the show from here is truly the finest pleasure under heaven." In the center of the hunting field, the scumbag emperor was riding a snow-white, divine horse. He wore a fox fur cloak and held a bow inlaid with agate, looking quite imposing. Right beside him was concubine Liu. She had been specially allowed to ride a small peach-colored horse. She wore tight riding clothes, clapping and cheering coquettishly from time to time. "Your Majesty is mighty. Your Majesty will surely hunt down a fierce beast to present at the Imperial Ancestral Temple." I lazily sipped my tea and glanced over. "Mighty? Look at the way he holds that bow. His right arm is not pressed close to his ribs, his thumb hooks the bowstring too stiffly, and that white horse's gait is flighty and its footing is unsteady. If he manages to shoot a lame rabbit later, it will already be his ancestors' blessing." Just then, from the shrubs about 100 yards away, a large spotted deer suddenly sprang out. It stared blankly at the crowd, then panicked and tried to flee. "My treasure, watch me!" the emperor roared excitedly. He drew an arrow, pulled the bowstring taut, and aimed straight at the deer. The entire hunting field held its breath. The eunuchs and guards around him had already prepared their most flowery praises, ready to cheer. Concubine Liu clasped her hands in front of her chest, her eyes blinking with admiration. Whoosh! The arrow sliced through the wind. But instead of striking the deer, the arrow went wildly off course, flew upward and buried itself straight into a giant hornet nest, hanging from the branch of an ancient banyan tree several dozen yards away. Crack! Boom! The nest was pierced by the force of the arrow, fell to the ground and shattered. In the blink of an eye, thousands upon thousands of black hornets, each as large as a thumb, poured out like a storm cloud. The buzzing of their wings made one's scalp prickle. The furious swarm charged toward the one who had destroyed their home, His Majesty the Emperor, who was standing there frozen with a bow in hand. "Protect His Majesty!" The chief eunuch's shrill cry tore through the quiet hunting grounds. The grand heroic scene instantly became a chaotic battlefield. The emperor's divine horse gave a terrified neigh, reared up, kicking its front legs high, and bolted for its life, throwing its supreme master directly into a pile of dry leaves. The emperor tumbled down, his crown flying away. The hornets immediately surrounded him. He screamed miserably, covered his head with both hands, and ran as if his heels had caught fire. Where was the majestic bearing of an imposing ruler? Where were those leisurely steps from the imperial garden? At this moment he ran faster than a lame rabbit, bouncing as he fled like a shrimp on a hot pan because hornets had stung his backside. "Ah, your majesty, save me!" Concubine Lu was no better. Her horse was so frightened it threw her into a mud puddle. Was she not supposed to be slender and weak, unable to withstand even a cold breeze, gasping after every 3 steps? Yet now, Concubine Lu abandoned all elegance, lifted the hem of her riding robe high, and sprinted like a whirlwind while shrieking. Her speed surpassed even the imperial guards trying to rush in and save the emperor. Inside the tent on the hillside, the 4 of us lifted a corner of the curtain and witnessed this entire historical drama. Peerless, truly peerless lightness skill. I slapped my thigh, laughing so hard I nearly bit my tongue. Noble Lady Chen, look at Concubine Lu's steps. She treads on dry leaves without leaving a trace. She can run and scream at the same time without her breathing becoming disordered. With skill like this, using it in the rear palace to compete for favor is truly a waste of talent. Noble Lady Chen laughed while chewing meat. Talented Lady Li, are you writing this down? His Majesty's skill is extraordinary. With 1 arrow he shot down an army of heavenly hornet soldiers. Talented Lady Li nodded repeatedly, her hand writing without pause. I have it. I have it. In the 3rd year of Jingming at the autumn hunt, His Majesty displayed divine archery, summoning 10,000 fierce hornets with 1 arrow. His Majesty and Concubine Lu ran hand in hand, perfectly in step as husband and wife, moving heaven and earth. Consort Shu wiped away tears of laughter with a silk handkerchief, and calmly tidied the game board. Sisters, how many jars of ointment do you think the Imperial Medical Bureau will have to use later to make all the swelling on His Majesty's and his treasures' faces go down? Come, open the betting pool, I said. I bet His Majesty's right eye will swell, and Concubine Lu's left eye will swell. Together they will make a pair of mandarin duck pandas. I bet His Majesty was stung on the backside. Just now I clearly saw a hornet crawl into his trousers. Noble Lady Chen excitedly threw a piece of broken silver onto the table, while the soldiers below frantically lit torches to drive away the hornets, and the sound of wailing echoed through the forest. Up on the warm, safe hillside, our round-table society leisurely cracked melon seeds, lifted fragrant cups of tea, and enjoyed the most expensive entertainment of that autumn. The emperor we had once poured our hearts into loving was now, in our eyes, no different from a clown on a stage. And his performance, oh, it was truly superb. In the spring of the 4th year of Jingming, the metropolitan examination and palace examination had just ended, and the capital welcomed another lively, bustling spring. That day, peach blossoms bloomed all over the imperial garden, but the 4 of us sisters had no interest in admiring flowers. The reason was that Xiao Luzi had just secretly smuggled a cart of snacks into the water pavilion, along with a piece of romantic gossip that shook the entire capital. We spread out the bamboo mats and cracked melon seeds while leaning on our hands to listen. Reporting to all your highnesses, this is a huge piece of gossip. Xiao Luzi poured himself tea to moisten his throat, then began gesturing with both hands and feet. The newly appointed top scholar this year is handsome as jade. He rode a tall, fine horse and wore a crimson scholar's robe during the parade through the streets. He caused countless young noble ladies in the capital to drop their handkerchiefs and compete to marry him. Consort Shu tapped the dull gold nail guard on her finger. Get to the point. Young women admire the top scholar every year. Your Highness, wait, there is more. Xiao Luzi widened his eyes. The emperor saw that the new top scholar had both talent and looks, so in high spirits he wanted to bestow the 3rd princess in marriage to him. Who could have known that this scholar's head was as hard as stone? He knelt in the golden hall and refused directly, shouting, "In my hometown this subject already has a wife who shared poverty with me. To support my studies, my wife rose early and slept late selling tofu for 3 years. This subject will absolutely not betray her." When noble Lady Chen heard the word tofu, both her eyes lit up. A good man. He dares to refuse a golden branch and jade leaf for a wife who sells tofu. I approve. Xiao Luzi smacked his lips, clasped his hands behind his back, and imitated Concubine Lu's delicate swaying. So what if he is a good man? Concubine Lu was grinding ink beside the emperor at the time. After hearing it, she covered her mouth and sneered, then offered a filthy suggestion. She whispered into the emperor's ear, "Your Majesty, this scholar does not know what is good for him. Simply issue an imperial decree bestowing the marriage." force him to abandon his wife and marry the princess. A beggar at the head of the street may marry an old tofu-selling woman, but a top scholar should become an imperial son-in-law. I slammed my hand onto the table in anger, sending a plate of mung bean cakes flying. That brainless woman. She herself climbed into the dragon bed with schemes and dirty tricks, and she thinks everyone else despises the poor and clings to wealth the way she does? And then? The decree was issued. This morning, the eunuchs carried the forced marriage decree and the princess's bridal sedan to fetch the top scholar. Xiao Luzi laughed until his whole face wrinkled. But your highnesses, the tofu-selling wife had traveled all the way from their hometown to the capital to find her husband. The moment she saw the forced bridal sedan, she said nothing. She pulled a rolling pin more than a yard long out of her bundle and stood with her legs spread in front of the scholar's residence. The entire water pavilion held its breath. Talented Lady Li hurriedly pulled out her brush, dipped it heavily in ink and stared with burning eyes. Write quickly, write quickly. A heroine among women, one rolling pin that's steadied the realm. That wife swung the rolling pin like drunken fist, cursing the guards so fiercely they could not even wipe their faces. Xiao Luzi acted out the swinging of the rolling pin and nearly hit me in the head. She shouted, I worked myself to the bone, grinding tofu for 3 years until even the millstone was worn thin, all to support my husband, and now you imperial people want to openly steal my husband? Even funnier, the new top scholar was not afraid at all. He took off his black gauze hat and ran out to stand behind his wife, hugging the tofu basket tightly while cheering her on the whole time. Wife, be careful not to sprain your hand. Ha. The four of us burst into laughter, laughing until the carefully applied rouge and powder from that morning slid away. Love among common people was truly too adorable. Compared with the loyalty of that former beggar-turned-top scholar, our noble husband, who had wanted to behead the entire Imperial Medical Bureau over one mosquito bite on concubine Liu, was not even worthy to carry his shoes. Consort Shu wiped away a tear that had leaked out from laughing too hard. With a wave of her hand, she threw Xiao Luzi a 10-tael silver ingot. Go immediately to the Imperial Medical Bureau. Take my finest medicated plaster for sore muscles and tendons and wrap it carefully. Sneak out of the city and put it into that madam's hands for me. I slapped my thigh. Well done. If you can, send her a basket of red pomegranates too. Wish the couple 100 years of happiness and anger concubine Liu to death. Xiao Luzi accepted the order and ran off like the wind. The failed forced marriage of the top scholar was only a lonely gust before the storm that would soon sweep through the Forbidden City. The emperor lost face before the civil and military officials because of this matter. But instead of blaming himself, he blamed the ministers for not properly educating their subordinates. To make up for it, he poured all his favor onto concubine Liu, soothing her after her failed suggestion. As a result, concubine Liu's useless, talentless father, who had originally been nothing more than a poor 8th-rank county magistrate in Jiangnan, was promoted with a sweep of the scumbag emperor's brush to governor of the Zhonghui region, placed in charge of disaster relief grain for the whole area. When a villain gains power, arrogance naturally follows. Concubine Liu's father and brothers took advantage of national calamity, embezzling government silver and plundering wealth. When drought struck the north and the people had to eat tree bark and even trade children with one another in desperation, the relief silver flowed straight into the Liu family's pockets, so concubine Liu could fill her palace with pearls, jade, and treasures. The realm suffered. The common people were furious. The 6th prince, the scumbag emperor's younger half-brother, had been banished to guard the bitter northern frontier for 10 years. At last he raised the banner of righteous rebellion. Under the righteous name of clearing the ruler's side and eliminating the wicked consort, he led 100,000 armored cavalry thundering toward the capital. When the news reached the water pavilion, we were gathered around the mahjong table. The charcoal stove burned low, and a kettle of water boiled above it for pu'er tea. Where is the 6th prince's main force stationed now? I asked Xiao Luzi, who stood trembling beneath the eaves, while holding the 9 of characters tile in my hand. Although we bore the reputation of neglected consorts who spent every day cracking melon seeds, I was a general's daughter and Consort Shu was a minister's daughter. We were not fools who knew only jealousy and tears. Through our intelligence network, every movement of the outer court was as clear to us as the lines on our palms. Xiao Luzi wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Reporting to your highness, the 6th prince's army has already crossed Yanmen Pass and is attacking Zhonghui directly. That Governor Liu did not even have time to put on his trousers before trying to flee with gold in his arms. The refugees caught him, tied him up, and hung him upside down from the city gate. Excellent. Consort Shu slammed a mahjong onto the table. Serves those corrupt officials right. No wonder concubine Liu was crying and making a scene outside the palace of heavenly purity this morning. She must have heard that her father was hung out to roast in the sun. Noble Lady Chen swallowed a mouthful of candied plum, and worry flickered across her round face. But the sixth prince is advancing so quickly, I fear he will reach the capital gates in less than half a month. Sister Shen's father commands the 30,000 imperial guards protecting the imperial city. Will His Majesty force old General Shen to go out and fight? The atmosphere around the mahjong table sank for a breath. Cold wind blew in from the lotus pond, making the thin silk lantern flame flicker. I curled my lip coldly, set down the 9 of characters, and drew from my sleeve a thin piece of flowered notepaper no bigger than 2 finger joints. I spread it on the table and signaled for talented Lady Li to grind ink. Ask yourselves how the scumbag emperor has treated my Shen family these 10 years. When he needed money for war, he spoke sweetly and coaxed. When concubine Liu wanted to build a high tower to watch stars, he cut the soldiers' provisions. I, Shen Wei, may be a woman, but I still understand the principle that loyal ministers do not serve a foolish ruler. If he continues living, it is the common people who will die. After saying this, I took the brush and neatly wrote several lines in our private code on the tiny note. Dear Father, the scumbag emperor is about to fall from power. The imperial guards protecting the capital must have eaten something spoiled lately. I hope Father will let the whole army suffer collective diarrhea, all claim illness at once, and open their eyes wide to watch the city fall. Your daughter is still eating melon seeds happily. Do not worry. When Consort Shu saw this, she immediately pulled out a piece of paper too, writing while muttering, To Father the Minister, the treasury has already run dry. Do not be foolish and use your own money to recruit soldiers and buy horses for His Majesty. Old fool, close the residence gate and pretend you fell and broke your leg. Save that money so your daughter can do business outside the capital in the future. Talented Lady Li and noble Lady Chen also quickly wrote letters to their families. The Chen family, as merchants, would immediately block the supply routes bringing grain to the imperial guards. The Li family, as historians, would secretly prepare a proclamation listing the scumbag emperor's crimes, waiting to release it the moment the new emperor took power. We rolled the tiny letters and tied them to the legs of 4 messenger pigeons. I lifted the birdcage and opened the window. 4 snow-white figures flew into the dark night of the capital, carrying the death sentence already decided for this rotten dynasty. All right. State affairs are settled. I dusted off my hands and returned to the mahjong table, leisurely drawing another tile. Come, whose turn is it? Today I must win all your hairpins to use as travel expenses for retirement. Outside, the autumn wind howled and a storm had risen in the outer court. But inside the water pavilion, the crisp sound of melon seeds and the bright laughter of 4 palace women continued warmly. In the 12th month of the 4th year of Jingming, the northern wind was cold enough to pierce bone marrow. Yet it was not as cold as the miserable atmosphere covering the entire Forbidden City. The 6th prince's 100,000 armored cavalry had reached Xuanwu Gate. The sound of horns shook the sky, and the neighing of war horses echoed all the way into the rear palace. Inside the palace of heavenly purity, treasures and ornaments were being smashed with sharp crashes. The scumbag emperor, his hair disheveled and his crown crooked, ran wildly around the hall like a rooster whose feathers had been plucked clean. Protect me! Why is no one coming to protect me? Where is General Shen? Where is Minister Wang? The scumbag emperor's hoarse roars were filled with despair. After receiving the urgent verbal summons, we 4 sisters had no choice but to set aside our unfinished mahjong game and support one another into the hall. To cope with this situation, we had carefully piled a thick layer of pearl powder onto our faces, let our hair fall messily, and rubbed a little chili wax beneath the corners of our eyes so tears would stream down. At first glance, we looked as miserable as vengeful ghosts demanding lives. The moment the scumbag emperor saw me, he was like a drowning man finding a piece of driftwood. He rushed over and tried to grab my hand. Beloved consort Jiwei, you are General Shen's cherished daughter. Hurry, write a blood letter calling your father to bring the 30,000 imperial guards here to cut off the rebel's head for me. I retreated half a step, raised my handkerchief to cover my mouth and coughed weakly. My body swayed like a willow branch in the wind. Your Majesty, cough cough, I fear it is too late. Yesterday my father ate spoiled pork while visiting the camp. All 30,000 imperial guards shared the same pot of pork soup. They are now suffering internal chaos, clutching their stomachs and fighting over the latrines on the drill ground. My father has diarrhea so badly he cannot stand. I beg your majesty's forgiveness. The scumbag emperor stared, blue veins standing out across his forehead. He suddenly turned to Consort Shu. And you Wang Yaru? Your minister's residence is filled with gold and silver. Hurry and take out money to reward the army. Offer a prize of 10,000 taels of gold to whoever takes my 6th brother's head. Consort Shu directly dropped to her knees and sobbed pitifully, her acting 1,000 times convincing. Your majesty's fate is so bitter. Because my father was so worried for the country and the state. He was walking in his study yesterday, when somehow he stepped on a banana peel and broke both legs. As for the entire treasury of the minister's residence, it was gnawed into powder by a pack of sewer rats. Not even 1 copper coin remains. The emperor staggered back several steps and collapsed onto the dragon throne. He looked at talented Lady Li and noble Lady Chen, but talented Lady Li immediately rolled her eyes and pretended to faint, while noble Lady Chen covered her mouth and retched dryly, acting as though a serious illness had returned. Just then, from the rear door of the Palace of Heavenly Purity, a slender figure carrying 2 huge bundles tried to sneak away. It was none other than the emperor's precious heart and liver, concubine Lu. She was no longer wearing thin gauze and swaying delicately. Instead, she wore a dark brocade outfit suited for fleeing at night. Her heavy bundles were stuffed full of pearls, ruby jade, agate, and gold ingots that the scumbag emperor had once bestowed on her. Concubine Liu, where are you going? The emperor stared at the white moonlight of his life, his voice trembling with pain. Seeing that she had been exposed, concubine Liu threw away her gentle, obedient mask. She lifted her chin, her gaze cold and deceitful. Your Majesty, wake up. The city is about to fall. You may want to die, but I am still young. I cannot be buried with you. Consider this gold and silver compensation for the mental suffering I endured while serving you for these past years. I am leaving, Your Majesty. Take care of yourself. After saying this, she turned to run. The scumbag emperor cried out in despair and stretched his hand into empty air. My treasure, how could you bear to treat me like this? I watched from the side and found it truly unbearable. If this madwoman wanted to run, then run. But carrying bundles that large, where would she find the strength to climb over the wall? She really was a green tea schemer with only looks and no brain. I casually reached into the snack basket noble Lady Chen had brought and felt a winter cabbage. It was tightly wrapped, solid, as large as a small water jar, and hard as stone. I will let you run. I aimed precisely, channeled a little inner strength from my core, and hurled the cabbage hard toward the door. Thud. The cabbage flew in a beautiful arc, and struck concubine Liu directly on the back of the neck. She cried out miserably, her eyes rolled back, and she crashed to the floor like a banana tree chopped down at the trunk. Her bundles burst open. Gold, silver, and jewels scattered everywhere across the golden floor tiles. The scumbag emperor looked at the scene with blank eyes and completely collapsed. A few moments later, Xuanwu Gate was opened wide from the inside by the imperial guards. The 6th prince, dressed in imposing armor, stepped into the Palace of Heavenly Purity without expending a single arrow or bolt. The scumbag emperor's farce officially came to an end. We 4 sisters silently retreated into a corner, dusted the powder from our hands, and cracked meltion seeds together. The overall situation was settled. The 6th prince ascended the throne as a matter of course, taking Taiping as his reign title. The scumbag emperor was deposed as a commoner and placed under house arrest for life in the imperial clan court, never again seeing daylight. As for that green tea schemer concubine Liu, because her maternal family had embezzled from the state treasury, the new emperor confiscated all her property. She was sent to the imperial ancestral temple on the outskirts to sweep refuse, where she was beaten daily by the old managing women to train her habit of gasping once every 3 steps. As for the 4 of us sisters, because our families in the old court had all wisely held their troops still and opened the city gates to welcome the new emperor, we were counted among the meritorious supporters of his rise, with splendid credit. One clear day after the clouds had lifted, after holding court, the new emperor summoned the 4 of us to the imperial study. Unlike the scumbag emperor, the new emperor was clear-sighted, reasonable, and understood worldly feelings. Noble Consort Shen, Consort Shuwang, and the 2 other ladies, the new emperor said gently, all these years you have suffered many grievances in the rear palace. Now that I have ascended the throne, in recognition of your family's merits, I will grant you special favor. I will bestow marriages upon you, allowing you to remarry the finest heroic men of the court, so that you may have a stable place to rely on for the second half of your lives. The moment we heard the word remarry, all 4 of us shuddered in unison. What heroic men! No matter how capable a husband was, he could not compare to freedom and ease. We had already tasted enough of the bitter astringency of marriage. Why would we stick our heads into another trap? I stepped forward, bowed respectfully, but my tone was extremely firm. Thank you for your Majesty's grace. However, this consort and these 3 sisters are of one heart. None of us wishes to remarry. We ask your Majesty for only one favor. Please grant each of us a release letter, strike our names from the imperial registry, and return our freedom. From now on, we wish to retire to our hometowns and live quiet lives as commoners. The new emperor was startled, but a flash of understanding appeared in his eyes. He pondered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. If you have already made up your minds, I will fulfill your wish. In addition, I will return all your dowries intact and add a reward of 30,000 taels of silver as travel funds for you. The moment they heard 30,000 taels of silver, Consort Shu's and noble Lady Chen's eyes shone like torches. And so on an early spring morning 60 enormous carriages, loaded with jewelry, brocade, banknotes, and of course several dozen sacks of roasted melon seeds, rumbled one after another out of the capital gate. Dressed in plain clothes, we lifted the curtains of the carriage and looked back at the Forbidden City one last time. Those red walls and golden tiles had once been a cage that imprisoned our youth. Now they had already receded behind us into a tiny dot. The capital was very beautiful, but I did not want to return anymore. We traveled straight south, to a land of winding rivers and blooming lotuses. In Suzhou we bought the largest and grandest residence available and hung a sign that read 4 Joys Courtyard. The retirement life of 4 neglected palace ladies began there. In 4 Joys Courtyard, there were no consorts crying and competing for favor, and there were no rules requiring us to rise before dawn to pay respects. Beneath a blooming trellis of Tonkin jasmine vines, the 4 of us wore thin silk skirts, tied our hair loosely, and rested our bare feet on bamboo mats. Around us were 5 little dogs and 3 lazy tabby cats basking in the sun. The mahjong table was set out again, and the clicking of tiles was pleasant to the ear. Self-drawn win 3 doubles. Sisters, pay up. Consort Shu's laughed brightly and swept the pile of broken silver ingots toward herself. Talented Lady Li clicked her tongue, threw out her money and waved her silk fan. Sister Consort Shu has such lucky hands lately. Oh right. This afternoon, the storyteller at the guild hall down the street is telling the tale of the tyrant emperor receiving his retribution and the virtuous consorts running away. Shall we go listen? We should tip the old storyteller extra. Yesterday, when he told the part about concubine Liu getting hit in the head by a cabbage, it was wonderfully vivid. Come along, noble Lady Chen. Remember to bring a box of mung bean cakes and a pot of jasmine tea. I reminded them cheerfully, picked up a melon seed, brought it to my mouth and cracked it with a crisp snap. The Jiangnan wind blew freely, carrying the fragrance of freedom and peace. We women, who had once fought one another until we were battered and bleeding, had now become inseparable confidantes. We had cut ties with that rotten man, and now lived a life with plenty of silver, sisters at our side, good tea and sweet cakes, and time to listen as the world made fools of itself. Quiet years, peaceful days. If a life can reach this, what more could one ask for?